and welcome to the opening drive. Brooke Grimsley here alongside Danny Mac. Randy Carricker, well-deserved week off. He really does deserve it, Dan, doesn't he? And also, we have Matthew Rocchio in studio today. As I mentioned, Randy with the day off. And it is beautiful this week. What do you think? Is he out on the golf course all week, Dan?
I have no idea. He's a strange bird. He could be doing anything. He might be reading poetry, writing poetry, playing golf. My guess would be he's probably rewatching the 1996 Rams season on YouTube. That would be my guess.
Is he a Renaissance man?
I don't know. Do you think he is?
I think so.
Why 96?
I just threw out a random year.
Okay,
That is something he would do.
I was wondering. I was like, was that the did Pace really find his footing that year as a left tackle in the NFL? And Randy's just really going to lock into that offensive line tape.
He does go back. He goes back and watches games.
He really does.
It's 55 degrees at 7 a.m. The man's golfing, and you know what? I hope he's playing 36.
I hope he is too. I know he loves the game of golf. I guarantee he's been out hitting golf balls, but
Bike rides.
Yeah, bike rides for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do we all put anything past him watching an old Rams game, though?
No.
I think that's 100% lie. That's a good one.
I wonder, is there an old
Maybe
football
Cardinals right
game?
now? Yeah, or maybe I'd say baseball Cardinals because it's.
Go back to the 2011 World Series and watch a Chris Carpenter start.
Let's go back to 04 and watch an inning with the MV3 going
That's
to town.
another very likely possibility.
It really, okay, one thing that he was doing, at least last night, because we were texting about it, fantasy football. So we had our 101 ESPN fantasy football draft. Rocchio, you were involved in that as well. And it was stressful to say the least, but at the same time, it was pretty fun. Randy was texting me back and forth. He said, don't take that guy. I want to take that guy because we were not too far from each other in draft order. And sure enough, I took the guy that he wanted.
I love when you guys admit collusion on
There's
wax.
not collusion.
So I can go back and I can pull it and we can talk
we
about
can't do this again,
you guys
Dan.
colluding. Well, stop admitting crimes on the air.
No, it was basically... Now I sound nervous, but basically Randy saying that he was wanting a certain guy. I didn't know who he wanted, and then I would just happen to pick that person. So there was no collusion.
So you're saying the
there.
actual text was, don't take that guy?
And then I did somehow
He wouldn't actually say who that guy was. Like, that was a verbatim text.
Yeah, because and then I was like, wait, who? And then I would just draft that person, and he would say, that one.
I'd smash your phone.
Did you guys go with like the automatic drafts, or did you the suggested pick in this round should be this player, or did you just already have an idea of what you wanted to do going in?
Well, so I had the 10th pick, and so I knew that it wasn't going to go that well for me, especially in the first round. I feel like it's just the first, maybe this is just me, I'm not a fantasy football expert, but I feel like it's just the first 3 rounds that maybe mean the most. And so by that time, there wasn't many guys left because everybody else got, of course, everybody that I wanted. I mean, McCaffrey went quickly. I feel like T-Bone honestly has the best team out of anybody out there. CD always does well, so I'm not feeling great about my fantasy football team
Who
this
was
year.
your first pick?
So this is going to be just kind of embarrassing for me because I'm still a Derrick Henry fan.
Don't be embarrassed. Things fall off after 7.
Yeah. So basically, Derrick Henry was one of the last options for me.
So not basically, it was Derrick Henry.
Yeah. It was a little painful because with him going over the Ravens, obviously Titans fan here, it's hard to see him with the Ravens, but I hope he does well. He is 30, so that's a big concern, but he spends like over $200,000 a year on his body maintenance.
He should. All these good. If you make that kind of money, why wouldn't you? If it keeps you in the league and gets you longevity, you should spend that kind. I mean, LeBron is in the millions with what he's doing. It's paid off for him. Brock, who was your first pick? Who'd you go with?
I went with Justin Jefferson, despite the fact that absolutely. There's not a word to define my lack of confidence in Sam Darnold as an NFL quarterback. But Justin Jefferson makes people look like idiots out there in the open field while he's running routes. So I mean, Tim Tebow could throw him the freaking ball. So yeah, I went with that one.
Was there any kind of controversy? Did it all go smoothly? No one was yelling?
I think so. No, I think everything went pretty smoothly. I already got a text for the 636. Brooke, that is a terrible pick for the 10th pick. I'm telling you, there was not much left. I had very little options.
Yeah, you probably could have reached maybe for something kind of out of the box. But I mean, if your thought process is that he's going to touchdown vulture like crazy in that offense, and they're going to run the ball out of the ways in the first place, I can see it could work out.
And the first overall pick was
Christian McCaffrey.
Had to be.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was wanting, but I knew that my chances were slim. Well, and then you also had people are saying middle of the draft matters. You're right. I mean, you can make an argument for everything that matters. And I felt like I did a terrible job either way, because at that point I was so low that I don't even know what I was doing. I was just like, hopefully this guy works out for me.
You were tired. I mean, you had to get ready for the big show. You started show prepping at 4 a.m. every day.
Of course.
And getting up, making breakfast.
Yeah. And I was at my mother-in-law's birthday dinner during this fantasy draft.
So it was remote draft.
Yes.
And not everybody got together.
No.
Okay. So remote draft.
7:30.
Mother-in-law's making dinner, helping to make dinner, eating dinner.
We were over at Annie Gunn's, which I know you love Annie Gunn's.
I love Annie
We got
Gunn's.
the shrimp over there, and all of a sudden I was like trying to time it out because we actually got there at 6, but it took a while to get to the main course. And sure enough, right when we were getting our main course is when the draft started. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to be really rude here, but we have our fantasy football draft. So that's also going to be my excuse, is that we kind of had to deal with that too. And, you know.
Well, they should understand. You're involved in sports, and this is doing homework for the show.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, somebody asked, what is Brooks' fantasy league team name? So I got creative. I usually do something very timely every year. Last year it was Rogers Darkness Retreat, and this year it's Herbert's Elevator Club.
I like that. It's timely for sure.
It is. Yeah.
Any other unique names on there that anybody had?
CD's TD's. And do you remember what Randy's is? He changed his to something. We can look it up.
Well,
yeah.
but you guys had fun with it.
We did.
All right,
yeah.
good.
Yeah. And somebody mentioned that I did not mention it is Hump Day. So happy Hump Day, everyone. And I'm sure a lot of Cardinals fans are happy after a thrilling win in Milwaukee last night. 7-4, the Cardinals were able to take Game 2 against the Brewers to even the series. They get it done in 12 innings. And that game had a little bit of everything, Dan. You had a fantastic game for Paul Goldschmidt, which we'll be talking about in the show. Michael Siani, fantastic game for him as well. While he didn't get the catch, he did get the clutch hit there at the end. What did you think of that call there with the catch?
I'm still unsure. I know we're supposed to come in here and hot take and say, that was a catch. And then I would love to say that. And then I'd say, no, it wasn't. Then I'd say, yeah, it was. I'm still in between on this whole thing.
Here's what we're going to do, Danny. Be against the catch this segment,
and then
the next segment you're going to be for it. And then
probably should.
Yeah, let's yo-yo it.
We'll just yo-yo it and see who's paying attention.
I thought, like, watching it live, I didn't think it was a catch. And then when they slowed it down, I thought it was a catch. So
I did too.
I'm still in between as to whether or not it was a catch. And I'll go with what they went with. Obviously, it was ruled in not his favor, the Cardinals' favor, but it looked, man, it was, I mean, if it wasn't a catch, it was everything but a catch. It was so close.
It was. It was the shoulda, coulda, woulda been catch, because it could have ended the game, and the ball slipped out. I guess you could argue if a guy runs up against the wall and the ball slips out, then that's not considered a catch. Is that another way to look at it?
Well, you got to have control.
Yeah.
You got to have control, and then you got to show it.
He was in control.
And you got to show it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's with him kind of rolling his body in the way that it was blinding the umpires from seeing the ball in the glove, and he's trying to show it, and it pops out, and you have to have control, and he didn't have, apparently he didn't have control, so not ruled a catch. I'd be curious what people thought. I mean, I honestly watched it a million times, and I go back and forth as to whether or not
it's like
it was
the
a
way
catch.
that it just kind of popped out, too. Yeah, but he looked like he had control of it.
I go back and forth. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm indecisive, and I'm not supposed to be indecisive here on 101 ESPN.
Dan.
I know I'm supposed to have conviction, but he did everything to get there. I mean, it was a great effort, obviously, and put yourself in a position to win the game. But I think watching it live again in regular speed, I didn't think he made a catch. And then watching it slowed down, which is the best way that you can always overturn a call because you get frame by frame. I thought, man, that's definitely a catch, but didn't go the Cardinals' way, but the game did, and Siani wound up being a hero anyway with his hit.
Yeah, he was. He was able to come through with the winning hit in the 12th, the 2-run single. And here is Michael Siani after the game with Jim Hayes.
I got a good jump, it was kind of sinking, and thought I had it. It was in my glove, and then I kind of I didn't want to really bang up my shoulder. Probably would have hurt a little worse than it did. I tried to turn my body around so I could kind of not smash into the ground, and I guess it popped out on the way out. My glove was turning or something. I gotta look at the replay. I kind of saw it up there, but you got to complete the catch. So, not just have it in your glove, you got to complete the whole thing. So it's tough. I mean, tough play. It's baseball.
I mean, we're almost there. I mean, that's a highlight reel catch. The feeling to go from that to putting the team back on top, what's that feeling like?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I got back in the dugout, you got to kind of just brush it off and move on. It's tough to do, but the coaches said the same thing. Like, listen, you're going to go win the game for us with the bat. So, try to, as best as I can, get it out of my mind. Probably wasn't fully out of my mind, but as best as I could, and, just do what I can.
Michael Siani, for him to come back from injury, and we know that also on the news recently with Victor Scott II, how they're working with him, who was doing great in center field, and then you have Michael Siani coming back. There was some consternation amongst fans about going with Siani, but in a moment like that, it makes you feel good about that decision.
Well, I think he's still got to prove himself. It's been 5 months of a major league season that he's had, and it's been good. Don't get me wrong. He's been great. He's sixth in Major League Baseball in outs above average, so he's proven himself defensively that he can play this position and play it at an elite level. But as an organization, are you completely sold on him being your everyday center fielder moving forward? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I still want to see some more, and I think he's got to prove himself at the plate.
Well, and also the other argument there is that Victor Scott II is the future, is what I'm assuming. That is your future center
Siani
fielder.
Could be too.
Yeah, that's the thing that they're trying to figure out here.
Yeah, I mean, you got both guys that I'd still want to have a little bit more of a. I'd want to watch them a little bit more, and that's why I think Siani plays too, in the fact that he's earned it up to this spot. Not as much as Victor Scott Victor Scott has not earned it as much, and I think that you owe it. You're still in it. Okay, are you realistically in it? Probably not. But are you somewhat in it? You're 5.5 games out in the wild card with 23 games left to play. So you got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're trying to figure out playing time for young players, but also see what you have for the future. And I still want to see more of Michael Siani before this year is through.
Another person that they're looking at for the future and still trying to decide, Steven Matz, making his first major league start since April 30th, and he pitched 4 2/3 innings with a season-high 7 strikeouts. He did give up a pair of solo homers before he was pulled after allowing a 2-out double in the 5th inning. What did you see from his outing?
His changeup was really good, you know, and that's something that I noticed right off the bat, is that his changeup was outstanding. Gave the Cardinals, as you mentioned, the line 4 2/3, and it's something to. It's kind of like watching Goldy right now. You're sitting there going, man, what if? What if this was there this year? What if he was in that 5th spot in the rotation and gave you a chance to win every time out and was a consistent guy in the rotation? He just can't stay healthy. So I think moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with 23 games left to play.
And we are talking about Paul Goldschmidt and Steven Matz in the starting rotation today. We'll also hear from Chase Kelly ahead of his St. Louis Hall of Fame induction. We'll check in with Jim the Cat Hayes, as you heard earlier, and Cardinals pitcher Kyle Gibson. But coming up, we do have Ask Uncle Randy, and you might know that Randy is not here. But we're going to do our best. We have Uncle Dan in studio. You have Aunt Brooke. You have Uncle Rocchio. Do we call you Uncle Rocchio? Do you like that?
Cousin's fine. I don't care.
Cousin?
The crazy cousin.
Cousin Rocchio. So you can get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line. That is 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho. Ask Uncle Randy is next.
Got a question for Uncle Randy? Let him dive into his infinite well filled with wisdom to find you answers. Text 314-399-9646. It's Ask Uncle Randy on 101 ESPN.
Back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocco here, and it is time for Ask Uncle Randy. Obviously, Randy Carricker not in studio this week, but we will do our best. We're kind of like step parents stepping into this role, or step uncle and aunt. Is that the best way to put it?
Sure.
We're trying our best. So if you want to have us answer any of your life's questions, fantasy football, well, after you heard how I fared in my fantasy football, you probably don't want to ask me anything about fantasy football, but you can get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line. That is 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho! What do we have on the text line, Rocc?
Okay, here we go.
636 has an interesting one. Before you get to it, Rocc, do you believe that Goldy is making it more difficult on the Cardinals with his recent improvement at the plate to re-sign him? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it does matter in September. He's hitting over 500 in his last 10 games, and you had that great game for him last night. I think it does. And I wouldn't be shocked, Dan, if the Cardinals re-signed him for a one-year deal.
No, I don't think it would be surprising at all if they brought him back. If the peripherals and the exit velocities, and John Denton spoke about this yesterday, if those are numbers that are coming out and saying that it's equal to, if not better in some areas than his MVP season, then I don't really think it matters what he's doing now, because then they have the numbers to show that maybe he's hitting into bad luck. I've talked about it a lot. I think the DeWitt's value legacy. I do think he comes back. And they'll have to wait for him to hit free agency, because then the price tag can go down for what you can bring him back for with the CBA and the way that it's set up. But it's good to see. I think if you bring him back, it gives you at least a vote of confidence. But I think they have in the back of their minds already maybe what they probably already want to do. Rocc, what do you got for us?
Dear Uncle Dan, what are your 3 favorite public access golf courses that you just have to play in St. Louis area, and why?
Well, I think if you're a St. Louis native, you got to go to Forest Park. You got to take out a Sunday and go down to Forest Park a Saturday. Forest Park is always fun to go down to and enjoy. Love Annbriar. Annbriar is a great golf course, and if you've never played Annbriar, make sure you go out and do that. It'll challenge you. It's a good place to play. And then right across the river is Gateway. I love Gateway International. Going over there is a very good golf course. It'll challenge you. You'll have fun. The people are great over there. Smitty and his staff will take care of you. So those would be the 3 that just off the top, I know I'm missing some good ones too. I know I am. But I'd go Forest Park, Annbriar, and then I'd probably look at Gateway. Go across the river and let Gateway take care of you. They will. They do a good job.
You have a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. But Forest Park's the one that, if you're a St. Louis native and haven't played Forest Park, you're missing out. Just take the time, go out and do it, and it's a fun place to be. That's where I go.
Best starter course?
Starter course? Go play the 9 holes at Family Golf.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, just go and hit, take out your wedges and go have a little fun. You're going to knock it all over the place. Maybe you hit somebody else. Don't get sued, and enjoy the 9 holes at Family Golf and Learning Center.
Yeah, I love Forest Park just because it's technically kind of if you want to get a little bit of a different 18 every time, you can kind of get like 4 or 5 different courses in there if you just play them in different orders.
There you go.
Just kind of switch it around, do Rosebud here, and switch it around and stuff like that. I mean, that's what I love about Forest Park.
I still need to do that, and I love going over to Family Golf and Learning Center, but I also have had a lot of people just tell me, like, rip the Band-Aid off and just go on the course. Obviously, not a busy day where I'd be holding up traffic, but at the same time, just go out there and just rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, get lessons.
Got to get lessons help.
Of
but
course.
If lessons, people always ask me, how should I start or whatever, and I always just say, go get a lesson. You don't need to go get fitted yet. You don't need to go do all that stuff with your club. Just go get a lesson, see if you like it, swing the club, and You'll probably enjoy it. You'll find it. You'll hit one shot that'll make you come back.
Learning how to swing a club is the most aggravating thing I've ever done in my adult life.
Yeah.
God, my God.
I just saw Rocc the other day learning how to hit a golf ball.
How
I hate
was it?
so much. I hate this
I
stupid
stayed away.
sport. I hate. I don't know why we play it. It's the dumbest thing in the world. It's fine if you're like 60. I get you can't run very much, but we're in our 30s. What are we doing? We can go play basketball. We can go play softball. What are we doing playing this sport right now? I hate it so much.
But you played.
I'm going to keep playing it. I'm going to get respectable at it, like 100. But like right now, I enjoy like 7 swings, and then I want to go on the exact rant I just went on every single time I play. Can we just play some pickup basketball for God's sake? I know where the ball's going when I play basketball.
But you have one shot that'll bring you back, right?
And I'll have
a long putt.
Yeah, and I'll have a couple if I play basketball.
Draws you back in.
That's all I'm
Yes.
saying. Dear everybody, my fiance doesn't really want a big wedding with a reception. I don't necessarily want to spend the money either for just one day, but it feels like we should have something to celebrate with our families. What should we do? Small.
Ooh.
You're the one that just got married. Go for it.
If I could do it all over again, Dan, and I absolutely loved my day, I would say less is more, always.
So that's it?
Yeah, less is more. I wish I would have spent more time, like at the reception, different things like that. I think that if you can spend more time with everybody at the reception and less of some of the other stuff of getting moved around a lot, especially with extra photos, there's a million different things that happen that it feels like you have to do this stuff. But if I could just carve out more time to spend with everybody at the reception, I would.
So would you have invited the same amount of people, or would you have...
I could have gone
reduced it.
smaller.
Yeah.
Now, we had about 100, so that's not considered big, I don't think, now. But maybe it's in that kind of middle-ish range. But I would have gone smaller.
Yeah?
I would have been fine with that.
All right.
How many people did you have at your wedding?
Don't remember. Have no
No?
idea. I just remember it was big, and I had no choice in anything that was done in it.
Did you enjoy that, though? Because then you didn't really have to make any of the hard plans?
Yeah. It was
you just
a great
got to
day.
show up.
Yeah, I just showed up, had fun, enjoyed it, and it was all about her. That's the way I look at it. It was all about her and her mom. And it's all good.
Dear Uncle Dan and Brooke, why does my mother-in-law never want to help out with my kids? It's always like pulling nails to get them to do anything to help. My parents are the exact opposite. They'd go out of their way to help.
Because they raised you.
Damn. Damn. Damn.
They already did it. They've been there, done. I don't know why. I mean, most of the grandparents that I know, they say it's life-changing. Like, okay, you can have fun, and I'm not a grandfather yet. Hopefully will be one day. Not anytime too soon. But they say that they get to have the grandkids there, and maybe there's some grandparents listening that can help, and they spoil them to death. And then all of a sudden, when it's time to go to bed or do all those things, they just shove them right out the door. And when it gets tough, they say adios. I don't need to put up with all the hard stuff of giving them a bath and then getting them ready for bed and then getting up at 5 a.m. with them and doing all that other stuff. They don't have to do that. They just get the fun part. That's the fun part.
Load them up with sugar before they head back to the parents.
Absolutely. Why not?
I do understand this, though, because I've heard this from some friends where basically you have one set of parents that are very involved and another set that isn't as involved. And you want to have them involved, but maybe they don't have that full interest. They're probably still out doing maybe things that they wanted to in retirement. So it's hard to really know what is the best way to go about that.
I'm not a grandparent. I don't know.
Well, how do you feel like you will be as a grandparent?
Spoiling them
Yeah.
to death. Yes.
Are you doing the baths, changing diapers to
I'll
help?
do all that stuff too. Yeah, I didn't mind it. I mean, it's part of being a parent. I mean, if you have a sleepover with the little guys, yeah, you're gonna have to do that stuff. So I don't mind it.
People are different.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, some people are like, been there, done it. I'm out.
Some people maybe being a parent wasn't the thing they really enjoyed that much. Some people maybe really enjoyed being a parent. Doesn't make you a bad person. Just some people are more kind of, good to go with that than other people.
Yeah.
We all have strengths and weaknesses.
Let's see. Got married at home plate at Busch Stadium with reception and Champions Club. Amazing. I've seen a lot of people get married at the ballpark.
It might be smaller, but that's not gonna solve the guy's part of that text, which was he doesn't want to spend a lot of money.
Yeah,
Okay.
so going back to that person's text, they said they want a reception, right?
She doesn't want a big reception, and he doesn't want to spend the money, but they do want to celebrate with their family. And the simple thing is here is rent out an event space in the county and have 20 people dance and drink. I mean,
Yeah.
what are we doing here?
Just invite, a few people, and you can elope. I know there's a lot of people who do this now where they elope and then they have kind of a big reception, but you can keep it to a limited number with what Rockio's saying and have that.
So my father, this is 314, my father always said the reason grandparents and grandparents' kids get along so well is because they both have a common enemy.
Oh, my Lord.
Now, for some grandparents, it's just tougher physically, too. I mean, it's just not an easy thing to do.
When you had kids and when your kids had kids. Because if you both have kids late, and all of a sudden you're a grandparent starting at 70, which will, if I ever have kids, that will be the case for my parents.
Yep.
Like, my parents will be in their 70s if I ever have kids. I'm not really expecting them to do a whole lot of work that you would have if you have if you have your kids when your parents are in their late 50s. That's a big 10, 15 years when you talk about just like energy levels and time you have to do things. I mean,
having
that's a big
kids
difference.
is tough, man. It's just it's just a lot.
And it takes a village. Did you have a lot of help?
Yeah, my mom was great. Her parents were great. We had a lot of help. We have 4 kids within 3.5 years. So
we get a lot of these.
Yeah, you needed a lot of help.
Yeah.
You needed a full village some.
We're getting some of these. I love having my grandkids. I fill them with sugar, send them back home, and that's what I call payback.
I do imagine that has to be the best part of being a grandparent is that you're not having to worry about the parenting aspect like you did with your kids. Obviously, you are taking care of them. Maybe you're babysitting, but you're not having to do the discipline side of things. So you get to have more of the fun aspect of it.
573 said, I love being a parent, dedicated my best years to my kids, and now it's time to do what I want. There's a lot of truth to that, too.
Those are two
retirement age.
Those are two
going
very
cruises.
different people. And for all we know, part of the difference is, again, one of them's 58 and one of them's 68. And that could be the big difference between, like, okay, this is what I want to do with my life now.
So, Brooke, you should have done this. This is 573. I own a restaurant, bar, event place in Farmington. Okay. And this particular individual said they'll host them for free. Mechanical bowl, 8,000 square foot, an upstairs party room, bullpen sports bar. Hook us up. Okay, you get the mechanical bowl at your wedding. That would be one that people would not forget.
And they would never forget that.
You had a mechanical bowl at your wedding, you would not be forgotten.
No. I really missed out here, is what I'm gathering. I didn't have a mechanical bull at my wedding.
No, I think maybe you did the right thing. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Can we ask Brooke one more wedding question?
Sure.
What did your, at the time, fiance, now current husband, what did he have an impact on? Like, what was his insight used for?
So I feel like I was really lucky because he was very hands-on. He's way better at planning things than I am. I am not great at planning events, anything like that. So he handled a lot of that side of things, of making sure of when it came to talking to different wedding people, he was doing the majority of the talking. Now I was involved. Oh yeah. He handled the vendors conversation because I don't really know. I'll be like,
That's smart.
Sure. That sounds great. We'll have a mechanical bull at the wedding. Like, I don't know. Like, you can talk me into anything. And I'd be like, yeah, if everybody else is doing it, sure. And so he handled the majority of that kind of stuff.
Now, Rocc, if and when you decide to tie the knot, will you have a big party, or are you just going to have a very...
Oh, God, no, I'm not going to have a big party.
Just very quaint? But now, what does she want, though? That's the key.
No, she don't want a big party.
Just nice and simple, family, and call it a day.
Yeah, the chances I get married stateside get lower and lower year by year. Every year that goes by, I think, like 4 people in a place that no one else can ever find it. I like that idea.
That's really quiet. Yeah. That's very quaint. If no one else can find it.
Yeah.
Like a library. Is that what you're holding?
No, I'm thinking like 4 people on an island somewhere that you need a boat to get to or something like that.
What?
Like I'm thinking that as small as humanly possible.
What about some good friends? What about the morning drive people?
A couple of them. Yeah, a few people. But like not anything more than that.
It doesn't sound like we're getting an invitation.
Oh, no, there's no chance.
It's okay. People I've known since I was like 5 years old aren't getting invitations if I get married.
You've been talking about this since 5?
No, I'm just saying it's people I've known since I was like 5.
Known
like people
since
I've
5.
grown up with, people in my family that have been in my family my entire life. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about y'all.
You don't want many witnesses.
It's not even that. It's just I ain't dealing with any of that. I refuse. I refuse to deal with the idea that somebody's going to be like, "Oh, is this person coming?" No, because they're not within a small circle of like the 8 people closest to me in my life, and so therefore, it's a way to cut out any of that fluff where people are like, "Well, why aren't I getting invited?" It's like, well, because are you a blood relative? Okay, then you didn't make the list. I have a friend who did it that way.
That's an easy
honestly,
cutoff. It is.
That's my thing. I think it's the easiest way to make the cutoff.
All right.
I think that we did, if we haven't interacted with you in a year, then you didn't make the cut.
Oh God, that list gets. I mean, the list just got smaller than the 8 people that I'm blood related to.
Well, would we make the cut?
You see us like every day.
I don't know.
Probably not.
I don't know.
Come on, Rocc.
If we do like a reception back here in the States, there would be a lot more people that would make that cut. But the
Okay,
actual,
we get you the mechanical bull. Can we
the
come?
actual, like, the plan I have right now for the actual ceremony is it'll be very small in a different country.
That's kind of cool.
So I hate getting invited to destination weddings, and so I will not invite many people if I have a destination wedding.
So maybe just
Because I
the
feel
immediate family and then have a party back here.
Yeah, because I feel like if you invite somebody to a destination wedding, it's kind of like, I invited you, so even if you don't come, we're not present at, and I'm not gonna pull that stuff.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Let's see. The best part of being a parent is being a grandparent, turning into a grandparent to 314. I'm looking forward to it. I just don't want it to happen right now.
I feel like it's a pot shot from my mom.
You think so?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, especially with the age of your children right now. I understand that.
We definitely don't need to be a grandparent yet. No. Let's just make sure.
You want to wait a while for that one.
Want to see it happen someday, just not right now.
No, in the very, very distant future. All right, that is Ask Uncle Randy. We did our best to fill in for Randy Carricker today. Coming up, we head to the celebrity line to hear from Kelly Chase on his induction into the St. Louis Hall of Fame this Thursday. That's next here on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update. Driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals come up with a big win last night, 7-4 in extra innings. Steven Matz returned and made his first start. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 30 earned runs allowed, 1 walk, but 7 strikeouts for Steven Matz. And again, the Cardinals come away with a 7-4 victory in extras despite some theatrics. 6:40 first pitch for the game today against the Brewers. It'll be Sonny Gray facing off against another righty for the Brewers, Colin Rea. Gray on the season, 12-9. With a 3.96 ERA through 147 2/3 innings pitched. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back to the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Dan McLaughlin, Randy Carricker, and heading into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame on Thursday is former Blues player and broadcaster and just a Hall of Famer in life, Kelly Chase, who joins us now on the Celebrity Line on 101 ESPN. Chaser, it's great to have you with us, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I was kind of joking with my family the other day saying, man, they must not have been able to sell tables. They took the Make-A-Wish kid and put him in the Hall of Fame. So
You're awful. You just started 30 seconds in and you start with this?
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering, what I did to deserve it, but it's great.
Well, it is great, and it is well-deserved, and you've done so much in the St. Louis community. Before we get into that, how's your health? I know a lot of folks here in St. Louis are concerned, and obviously things have taken a turn for the better, so how's your health?
It's good. I was joking with my doctor the other day. She's telling me that my everything looked good. I talked I went back to St. Louis and got some tests done, and they said the blood work and everything was fine. And then my doctor that had found leukemia, that had sent me to Dr. Herford, she said that I had some higher estrogen levels. I said, yeah, I knew that. I said, I'm starting to grow boobs and cry during movies. So I knew that. And she started laughing. She goes, what? I go, I'm kidding. But I am putting on weight. I feel good. And I'm just grateful. And, man, it changes your perspective a lot, obviously, on how you look at things and how view things. And I feel fortunate. Punches in the nose that you're used to getting punched every once in a while, but usually you can see the size of the guy you're fighting. In this case, leukemia, you don't really know the size of the guy. You don't know what hand he fights with, and you're not really sure if he fights dirty, and he does all of those things. Leukemia, it doesn't pick and choose. You really have to just put your trust in the great people at Sitemans. I can't say enough about the staff there, the nurses, the doctors, and everything. And look, they gave me a clinical trial drug for the first couple of rounds, and it worked. I didn't need the bone marrow transplant for the stem cell. And so right now we have it in remission, and just keep positive thoughts, and hopefully, 4 or 5 years down the road, you don't have to go in for tests anymore.
That's great to hear. Hey, Chaser, you have done things that I'm sure that you never dreamed that you'd be able to do. You played hockey at a high level. You broadcast. You've been able to travel. So from that standpoint of perspective you're facing your mortality, how has your life changed with this battle?
Well, it's a sense of appreciation. I mean, you talked about playing in the NHL. Like, it was just such a long way off for me. It was just such a dream that I just, I just wanted to play one game in the NHL, and then I wanted to play 1 year in the NHL, and then I never wanted to leave. And the fact that the Blues were so gracious to me to allow me to be a part of what they allowed me to be a part of for so long, I mean, it's special. And, the winning the Cup in St. Louis for those boys, and to be able to witness the greatness of the fan support and how, because everybody's greatest fans in the world, and that's a crock of shit. Like, there's just very few places that have the support that St. Louis does, and the communities. The sense of community, and that's why you're seeing, Alex Steen move back, Paul Stastny move back. I wouldn't be surprised if guys like, Oshie and I don't know, Bortuzzo, or guys that, really had a blue-collar guys that had a sense of appreciation for stuff come back to St. Louis. It's because, you're able to play, and that's what makes it great. And then the people that you meet, look, I've a pretty extensive Rolodex now, and the people that I got to meet, or whether it's entertainers, actors, athletes, just great people. I'm very fortunate. There's a saying about don't have dinner with people that you don't want to starve with, and it's kind of like you want to. I was just talking to Danny Mac about it. I really can't tell you how many people have reached out to me during that time, and you die in the hospital with this not because of the leukemia so much as the cure. And there's two reasons why. One, it's hard, and you have to really get yourself in a space where you can keep yourself positive. Even though you have those other thoughts, you just got to get rid of them as quick as you can and have them on your own. And then the second reason you die is because you're lonely. I never had that issue. I would see people in the hospital that were really sick that had nobody, and it could be because they just didn't have their family close by. It could be because their family was working and trying to pay the bills for them to be in there. There's many reasons why. I never had that. I had support. Every morning I woke up, I had text messages. Every day that I would, I'd sit on the bike and respond to people because I couldn't believe that. Look, I have the St. Louis community, I have my family, and then I have the hockey world. And the brotherhood in hockey is so unique. It's just a special fraternity. And I joked about this the other day. Like, I had Stu Grimson. We fought 11 times. I wake up one morning, and he's by my bed at like 6 a.m. He's sitting there looking at me. And I look at him, and I go, oh, Jesus, I must be sick if you're here. and he starts laughing, and I said, well, you're 0-11. You might as well get it over with now because this is your best chance. And he looked at me and said, Chase, I'm going to kiss you right on the lips right now, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I just start laughing because, and Cam Neely. I never played with Cam Neely. I didn't play with Rick Tocchet. I didn't play with Kirk Muller. Guys that came into town that just made a point. Mike Keane flew into town to see me one day. Just flew into town to see me, spent probably 6 hours, and then got in a car and drove to Chicago to scout a game. And just stuff like that. I know I'm missing people and I don't want to, but that happened a lot. Chris McAlpine, I go, where are you going to stay? He goes, I'm just going to sleep in the love seat. I'll just sleep in the chair here. Are you out of your mind? You flew into town to spend the night. I go, are you out of your mind? I called the hotel. Said, hey, I need to take care of one of my buddies, and they did, of course, and that's the St. Louis community, but that's the hockey world. So for me, I feel like I'm very blessed to have the people around me that I have.
Kelly Chase is headed to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame on Thursday night. Chaser, as you reflect on your career on the ice and off the ice, where both have had major impacts in town, a simple question would be, what are you most proud of?
Oh, wow, that's tough. I guess I'm most proud of the fact that I think that now I belong in St. Louis. Like, I feel like I'm a part of the community. I think St. Louis is very gracious, and we talk about it, but we have an instant family once we play on the team there, right? And the fact that now I feel like I'm very well accepted, not just because of hockey, but of accomplishments in the helping give back in the community. I feel like that's something that's really important to me. And I think one of the most exciting moments was the day I got traded back. I knew that the gratitude I felt for St. Louis was reciprocated, but I know I loved it. I didn't realize how much the city loved me, and I'm appreciative of that. And I think that, one of the things I'm most proud of is just the fact that I feel like I'm a St. Louis, and I feel like I fit in, and people can call me outside of the hockey world and know that I will support the community. I think that's really what you want. You raise kids in St. Louis, you teach them the right values, the whole works. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're part of a community, and I feel like I am.
Chaser, one of the things that the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame likes to do is make sure that the people that are going into the Hall of Fame are on hand to be interviewed or to talk. There's only one person that has gone into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame that said, I can't make it, I'll do a video. And that's Hully.
Yeah. Well, you know what? He's Listen, he's got a schedule. Certainly, I'm laughing at him right now. I've called him 2 days in a row, and he hasn't called me back. And I'm the one guy who does call. Now he just lost his mom, and he's going. And I go, hey, dude. I can get a hold of. I could have gone quicker than you. I don't know what you're doing right now, but give me a call. And we chatted, and we've got 3 events together in just October. So I know Hully's coming in. I believe he's coming in for my induction. I actually should have had him do the interviews because Curbs couldn't do it. And now I believe Tyson Nash is doing it. He's flying in for it. Again, Hully's a busy guy, but I'll tell you what, man, that's a part of my life that it's people call me all the time. What was it like? And, we always have the stories about Hully, and I jokingly said to him, which I will say at the Hall of Fame, I said I roomed with him for 7.5 years, and leukemia is not the disease I thought I was going to get. But in any event, it wasn't just the stories about, we've all heard how brash, and we know it was the easiest time in St. Louis to be in the media was when you put a microphone in front of Brett Hall. He did all the work for you.
You got that right.
But the truth is watching how great a player he was. There was nobody that could score goals like he scored goals. And he actually, his birthday party, Ray Whitney got up and made a toast here at Gaza Ranch, and he said something like, and probably the greatest pure goal scorer of all time. And Gretz was sitting there, and Ray Whitney was the stick boy for the Oilers when Wayne played. And Wayne looked at him and said, "Really? The greatest goal scorer of all time? Really, Ray?" and right while he was making a speech, and everyone died laughing because Gretz called him out. He won't let him forget it. He knew what Ray was trying to say, but he just got on him about it. But I truly think he was he was just so much ahead of his time with the one-timer and the ability to shoot off his back foot and get down low on the puck. And so not just the stories, but the greatness of Brett Hall, of how the way he played and the way he transformed. St. Louis might not have a team if it wasn't for Brett Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. I mean, they're coming off some tough trades in the Hornets, blowing up a team and really trying to find an identity. And he gave them an identity, and not just the city, but
as you reflect going into the Hall of Fame on Thursday night, and this is a tough question, but do you have a favorite moment that stands out for you on the ice? Is there something that stands out for Kelly Chase?
I guess it would. I think about my first game, and I think, geez, it must have been my first game. I just don't even remember. It's such a blur that day. But the moment that I always remember is the day that I got traded back, and I drove through the night to get to the rink, and Quenneville didn't know who I was when I was in the locker room, and I said, "Hey, Coach, I'm Kelly Chase," and I'd been to camp with him 10 years earlier in Hartford, and he, "Oh, wow, Chaser, good to have you here," and he talked to me for a while and everything, and then he said, "Hey, are you okay if you play tonight?" And it was a home opener, and I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, I was going to dress you," and I go, "You better dress me." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then after the ovation and the whole, what I felt like probably went on for way longer, because it went from cool, to appreciative to embarrassing. I got a goal. I got 2 goals the year before. I was like, and it just kept going, the ovation. And then when I got to the bench and I sat down after the anthem, he'd come over and he leaned over me and he said, "Jesus, am I ever glad I dressed you?" So I think, I guess if there's a moment that I remember, it would have been the fact that I was so appreciative of the response. Because as I said, I knew I loved St. Louis. I didn't know how much pride they took in having one of their own come back.
Hey, Chaser, last thing from me. You're going into a Hall of Fame with a lot of great people. And for a market our size, just from a hockey standpoint, we mentioned Brett Hull and Chopper and Al McInnes and Bernie Federko and the Hall of Famers that we have from hockey. And then, of course, all of the great baseball players and the greatest show on turf guys. You're going in with 2 relative contemporaries, Steven Jackson and Ray Langford. But think about all of those names that are in that St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. As a guy who's so proud to be a St. Louis guy, how cool is it to be going into this one?
Well, it's extremely cool, and the fact that, I can see the longevity plays into it, not just stats and community, because otherwise I probably didn't fit in with those players you just named. I guess, you know, I know Bobby Plager was one of those guys, and you can't replace Bobby Plager, but I like to think that I can fill a small void of the community and a part that he played in it. And I noticed that when I walk around in the arena, like, you know, the rules get tougher as you can tell by the way, you know, the security is. You don't walk out to your car through the fans anymore. There's a lot of things that have changed, and that's just our world. Aside from the rules, I can tell the appreciation that people have when you stop and talk to them when you're at the rink, and I can tell how proud they are of the Blues and what the accomplishments are of the team. And so I like to take time and fit in, and I look at it like it's a complete honor, but I feel like this award for me had nothing to do with stats. It certainly didn't have to do with fights or the amount of times you won or lost those fights. I think it had more to do with the sense of community, which St. Louis should always be proud of.
Well deserved. We're thrilled that you're going into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Looking forward to seeing you on Thursday night, and have a great time.
All right, guys. Thanks for your time.
That's absolutely perfect, Chaser. Thank you very much.
That's Kelly Chase, Randy Carricker, Dan McLaughlin with you. It's the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Kelly is headed to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame tomorrow night. Well deserved, and that was a fun interview with him. We'll be back with more. Take it or leave it is coming up on 101 ESPN. Hey, Danny Mac on this Wednesday morning for Stewart's American Mortgage. If you're someone who is looking to purchase a home or refi, if you're looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, and maybe you don't know exactly what direction to go to in any of these things, let's make it easy for you. Let's call Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage. We've done that here this morning. And Stewie, when you get these calls or you meet with people, what are some of the common mistakes that you confront? What are some of the things that you have to help people get through?
Well, Danny, the first thing everybody makes a mistake in is procrastination. They're afraid to go ahead and approach and change something in their lives. They may not be able to get it done, so they sit on it. We've been calling previous customers, talking about refinancing now and not waiting for the Federal Reserve to cut the rates. And one or two of them saying, you know what, I may not wait. I may want to wait and see what happens. It's free. It doesn't cost you a dime. The market is factoring in a 0.5% cut. If the Federal Reserve only cuts 0.25%, you'll actually see interest rates rise. So don't procrastinate. Go ahead and close your loan now. If rates go down later, guess what? You can always do it again. With the bagel loan, it doesn't cost you a dime. You'll be way ahead again. But don't turn away later and say, I should have, could have, and didn't, when the opportunity is here right now.
All right. If it's a new home you're looking to purchase, Stewie gets you to the closing table fast. How fast? Try 10 days. He'll get you the best interest rate possible. He also has the bagel loan. That can help you out, too. So what's the bagel loan? If you borrow $200,000 or more, there's no underwriting fees, no appraisal fees, no title fees, no lender fees, and no closing costs. Stewart, he is your guy. He makes it easy for you. Any questions on rates, the industry, the trends, give Stuart a call. Call him directly on his personal cell phone, 314-324-4440, 314-324-4440. Or Stewie, what else can we do?
Google Bagel Loan.
NMLS number 226715.
And start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Brooke, Dan, and Rocchio here, and it is now time for Take It or Leave It. So get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line. That is 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho! Dan, we haven't had a yo-ho from you today.
I'm just saving it.
Oh, you're just
building up to the
anticipation.
Yeah, the anticipation of the. I'll just do it. Yo-ho.
Oh, there we go.
Got it out of the way.
I didn't mean to pressure you into that.
No. I felt no pressure whatsoever.
All right, it is time for a Take It or Leave It. So, Dan, I'll get to start us here with Mizzou. They will remain in the top 10 for the remainder of the season. By the way, ranked number 9 right now.
I'm going to take that, and it's interesting what's happened with their schedule. It looks to have gotten a little bit tougher after week 1 when you saw what happened with Boston College at Florida State. Auburn had a good showing. Some of the other teams that they have on their schedule are we look at this as being a cupcake schedule. And look, if they're the team that we expect them to be, they should beat these teams anyway. But it does look like the schedule's gotten a little bit tougher after week 1.
If anything, it actually helps them, too, when you're talking about staying in the top 10, because if they are able to beat those opponents because of the quality wins that they had prior, it really helps Mizzou now.
No question about it. The 2024 White Sox have had losing streaks of 21 games, 14 games, now 12 games. Take those away, and they'd still be 31 games below 500. So let me say that again. They've had losing streaks of 21, 14, 12. Take those away, they'd still be 31 games below 500. Take it or leave it, this will go down as the worst season in the history of Major League Baseball.
I'm going to take it, especially the way that it's unfolded. It's been just embarrassing. Did you see the game last night?
Yeah, they had a collision near the third base line where it looked like the Bad News Bears coming together to make a catch.
It was the most White Sox thing ever to happen to the White Sox.
Well, in this day and age of free agency, you'd think you'd hit on a couple of free agents or sign somebody to come in, a couple of players to help you and not have this go down the way that it has. And, you'd say, well, now they're going to get the number 1 pick. The problem is the White Sox, they're on pace for the worst record in baseball history, but due to the new draft lottery format, they cannot pick higher than 12th in the 2025 draft. So it's a draft that's headlined by 2 potential stars. There's one that we know of, Ethan Holiday. He might be better than his brother. He's a shortstop. And then Jace Laviolette, outfielder out of Texas A&M. He's awesome too. And now they may not even get those 2 guys, and they won't get those 2 guys because they won't pick as high as 10th in the draft. So they're going to have to spend some money to avoid having just this happen every single year and draft, develop, and then it's going to take time. But, man, is it bad this year. It just shouldn't be this bad. It is embarrassing.
Yeah. All right, let's get a couple in from the text line. What would you have, Rocc?
Take it or leave it. Wherever Goldschmidt ends up next year, he produces more value than Burleson, Walker, or Nolan Gorman do for the Cardinals.
All combined?
No, he didn't say that.
I'm going to leave that. I mean, seeing what Goldy's doing here down the stretch, it shows me that there's something still there. And go back to what John Denton said yesterday on the text line. He said some of the peripheral numbers, exit velocity, launch angle, some of the things that are sabermetric looks at Goldy are actually better than what he has put up in 2022. So there's something there in the tank. It's just a matter of whether or not, he can sustain it over 5 to 6 months instead of having just a good 3 or 4 weeks, which is what we've seen here down the stretch.
And he obviously believes so.
Yeah, well, he should.
Yeah.
He's a major league player. He's got to believe in himself.
Take it or leave it. Dabo Swinney starts to use the portal before getting canned. Leave it. He's a hack.
I might have to leave it because he's been very stubborn about this, and it's obviously cost him. Now, I understand that they were facing a really, really great team. You have to adapt, though.
Oh, my
right?
stars.
When things change, you do have to adapt. Why would you not want to utilize the transfer portal?
Did you guys find it interesting that...
I know.
Go ahead, Rocc.
It's because he's a bad person who actually hates his athletes.
You really don't like Dabo, do you?
No, he's a scumbag.
Oh, jeez. Well, I will say it would almost be like with an NFL team where you only use the players that you drafted and you didn't use any of the other guys that you brought in.
I found it interesting that, you had a guy with Alabama ties and no one even from the Alabama side talked to Dabo Swinney. I mean, you never heard his name at all mentioned at all when Nick Saban decided to step away, and Dabo's sitting there potentially to be your next head coach, and they're like, no thanks.
Yeah.
So that to me was pretty telling in that regard. Matthew?
Oh,
we got a break already?
Okay. All right, fine.
I'm just pressuring everybody into things today.
No, you're right. I'll do it. Here we go.
All right.
Take it or leave it. The Cardinals have a fair weather fan base. This team is wrapping up a brutal stretch playing against top competition and is going to finish it above 500, and fans still won't show up.
I'm going to leave that. I'm not saying that they're a fair weather fan base. I am not doing that whatsoever. I was really surprised when Greg Amsinger kind of alluded to that last week, and he's allowed to have his own opinion on that, but I never think it's a great idea to call out the fans. I think the fans have been responding to the product that they've seen on the field, and I do not blame them whatsoever, especially in this day and age of how expensive things are. This is a very dedicated fan base, and I think that they have the frustrations boiling over from not just this season from what they've seen, but also what happened last year, the carryover from that, and even can point to maybe some even years before of this build up into the situation. I don't blame the fans whatsoever.
We got a stretch of 13 of 16 coming up at Busch Stadium. You got Seattle, you got Cincinnati, then they go to Toronto. That's a quick 3-game series. Come home with Pittsburgh, then you have Cleveland, and you go to Colorado and then finish up with San Francisco. So you've got a stretch of games coming up at home. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of crowds they get. Matthew, you're laughing.
Yeah, because does a long 3-game series have a day off in between?
I just meant a short road trip is what I meant. I'm trying to think of wait a minute, what are you saying here? I got you.
I'm just being an ass.
No, I got you.
Take it or leave it. One last one. The Cardinals should get Goldschmidt to a 2-year contract worth $20 million. So now, give him the second year, but you bring the AAV down from down to 10.
I find when I talk to fans, they're kind of down the middle on this. Where I thought a lot of fans would be like, hey, you need to just walk away from Paul Goldschmidt, which I can understand that point of view. I can also understand the point of view of fans saying, bring him back. He's been a great Cardinal. Let him finish his career here, future Hall of Famer. But I am surprised that it's gone down the middle. I thought there'd be more people that would say, just move on, go youth, put Burleson there, and that's the way it's going to be.
Well, and it's also recency bias, right? Because in his last 10 games, he's hitting over 500. So then you see this stretch and you want to buy back into it. All right, thanks for the text, Rocc. We do have to get out of this one now.
Okay.
And that actually leads into our next segment because Paul Goldschmidt thinks he has time left and the numbers prove it. Are you buying into a potential Paul Goldschmidt resurgence? We'll discuss that next coming up here on The Opening Drive.
Perspective on the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
He thinks that this is a blip. He thinks that, yes, he's turning 37 soon, but there are indications that he can get it back and get back closer to the player he used to be. His hard hit rate is actually better now than it was in 22 when he won the MVP. His exit velocity, average exit velocity off the bat, is higher now than it was in 2022 when he won the MVP. So he thinks with some adjustments, with some fixes this offseason, that he can get closer to the player he used to be.
Brooke, Dan, and Rocchio here, and that was John Denton of MLB.com yesterday on Paul Goldschmidt wanting to play next season. Now, Goldy does turn 37 next week, and if you look at his very recent numbers in his last 10 games, he is hitting over 500. And this season, though, he's had career lows in batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage. But he's right, Dan. His metrics are really strong. He ranks among the top 8% of major league hitters in hard hit rate, is in the top 16% in average exit velo. So with his contract expiring after the season, do you think the Cardinals bring him back?
Let me ask you, what do you think?
I could actually see it happening. On a one-year deal, I would not be surprised because they really value with Paul Goldschmidt, what he's been able to do for this organization in many different ways, and that veteran leadership. We hear that over and over again, but having Paul Goldschmidt back, I don't think is out of the question, especially on a one-year deal.
Yeah, I don't, and it's interesting, the numbers that John brought up. I did not realize that those numbers were where they're at concerning his 2022 season. Here's something that no one wants to hear about, but you're not going to replace his defense. I don't care who you throw over there. You're just not going to get defense the way that he plays it. He is a leader. You may not see it as a fan out there in terms of him throwing his bat and being a rah-rah guy, but behind the scenes, he is a leader. I think you do pay for some value of that. And I think that from an organizational standpoint, you pay for legacy in this town. Maybe not other places, but in this town you do. So those are some of the check boxes in bringing him back. I would be concerned, though, with what I've seen. If you look at what the team is actually playing pretty well. They took 2 or 3 against the Yankees. They have a chance to take their second series in a row against Milwaukee, even though that they're, 23 games left and have 11 games back and 5.5 out in the wild card. And the reason that they've been able to do this is because Jordan Walker has played okay. Since the 5-for-5 game, he hasn't done much, but it's Paul Goldschmidt, it's Nolan Arenado. And you were banking on those two guys to be Arenado and Goldy the entire year, and they haven't. So this has kind of been a refresher of what should have been, what could have been, and what might be. And if they bring him back, I really have no problem with it. It's just you may have to have a heart-to-heart with him and say, look, if things go south, then your role is going to have to change drastically, and you're not going to overpay for him. If he wants to stay here, make it work on both ends.
That's the thing is, what do you think that his role would look like? Would he have reduced playing time? We know that we've seen Alec Burleson over there at first base. There's even been, I know, at least discussions amongst us of you could look at Jordan Walker. I know that they're still working with him as an outfielder, but do you think that he would be fine with a more reduced role at the plate?
Only he
or
could
not at the plate, but at his position.
Yeah, only he could answer that. I think part of it is dependent on Jordan Walker, and if that spot is taken, then where do you put some of the others? And first base would be one of the spots that you would look at for sure.
618 texting in. Fun fact, Paul Goldschmidt reached base 22 times in his last 34 plate appearances, 7 times on doubles. He scored exactly twice on his own home runs. Can we find a new dog to kick?
So who are we kicking, Goldy?
You're kicking? No, he's saying, can we find a new dog to kick? The guy, he says, 22 times reaching base in your last 34 plate appearances is, just off the top of my head, an astronomical on-base percentage. 7 doubles within 34 plate appearances, also a pretty good slugging percentage. If you want to break that down, scoring twice on his own home runs. No one's driving the guy in. He's not the reason for the lack of offense within this last 3-week frame is what this texter is saying. Can we find a new dog to kick? Let's blame somebody else for having these problems.
636, I could get behind Goldy signing 1-year team-friendly deal, incentive-based deal with an option. I'm okay with that too. I just think that these guys are hard to find, and I understand he's having a bad year. It has not been good, but these guys are hard to find. And if you're going, though, with the complete youth movement, then he's gone. And then maybe you try to move on from Arenado, but I don't see them doing that. I think that the DeWitt's value, the legacy that this guy could bring by being a Hall of Famer, and he is a Hall of Famer. Especially if he plays 2 more years with the longevity in the league, his numbers are going to bear that out.
314 goes very differently. He has been bad, and this team has been bad next year. It has been bad, and next year it will be bad if he's on the team. Take the initiative. Know when you got the best of a player. Turn the page.
I would have to disagree with that. Now, I think that, Dan, you brought up a very good point there about it depends on where the Cardinals are going, which direction they are. Are you doing the youth movement where you are turning the page with Paul Goldschmidt? I think that he brings a lot of value, especially defensively and in the clubhouse. And we've had some people even text in from the 636, does Goldy even have a legacy here? We haven't won anything with him. He has an individual award, but it's been a disappointing era of Cardinal baseball with him and Arenado, plus no postseason memories of him coming through. I just don't think that it would be a bad idea to bring Paul Goldschmidt back on a 1-year deal. But it's dependent on what is the plan, what is the vision moving forward for the Cardinals if they are going to do a youth movement here.
Well, it depends on how much money you got, too. And I look at the rotation as, you could have a rotation that's set going into next season. You got Gray, you got Fetty, you got Michaelis, you got Palante, and you got Matz. Your everyday lineup, for all intents and purposes, could be set as well. I mean, you could have Wynn, just going off the top of my head, Donovan, Contreras, you got Burleson, you could have Goldie mixed in there, you got Nootbaar, you got Walker, you got Paje, Siani, you got Victor Scott. I mean, it's not going to take that much to sign him to bring him back. He's made a ton of money, and my guess is, and I haven't talked to him about this, but my guess is that he would like to finish here. I know he likes it in St. Louis. I know his family likes it here. There's a comfort level here, and you pay for, as a player, you pay that back a little bit too by saying, I'm comfortable where I'm at, and I think he's comfortable with the St. Louis Cardinals, and I think they try to find a way to make this thing work on both sides. But it's got to be reasonable.
Exactly. I think that's the big point there, is that it has to be reasonable and it has to work for both sides, but especially for the Cardinals. Now, we're going to revisit this at 9:30, so you can send in your mic drops via the 101 ESPN app. But coming up, we will check in with Bally Sports Midwest sideline reporter Jimmy the Cat Hayes. That's next here on The Opening Drive.
Yeah, it felt great. Obviously, you want to make that play in the 11 for the guys, for Hells especially coming in, punching the first two guys out. So tough one, but yeah, it was good to get back up.
It's a little cold.
It's not summer anymore, man. It's a little chilly.
Let's talk about the hit, okay? 2-0 cutter. And I'm wondering at that point, are you looking for, thanks for getting some on me, are you looking for a certain pitch there?
No, just something elevated. He's got a pretty good sinker. So just seeing something up that I can kind of try to get into the air a little bit. Got off the end of the bat a little bit, but I was able to get in the outfield, try to get at least one in, and fortunately got two. And then was able to kind of run around the bases a little bit and barely getting the job done again. So, yeah, it was good baseball.
That was Jim Hayes with Michael Siani after the win last night. And we head to the celebrity line now to talk to Jim Hayes. Jim, how are you doing this morning? Oh, no. We cut out a little bit. What did you say there?
I said a celebrity line. I don't deserve to be on any celebrity line.
Jim, you are the celebrity. So, yes, 100% you get the celebrity line. Now, my first question to you, we heard you there with Michael Siani. You are the master at avoiding the water bath. Is there a lot of training that goes into that?
Well, it's veteran intuition. You have to put in the work like a player does. It's really about the fundamentals. So you get a position where if you think there might be a water bath, you can use your peripheral to scope it out. Also, it's very important that you get your base set up properly so that you can pivot, right? Because you need to be in a position where you can do the interview, not let the interviewee know that water's coming and then pivot out of the way quickly. So it's a lot of things, but mostly I put in the work. A lot of times, like this morning, I'll do some training drills in my hotel room, working on that first step to get out of the way. That's very important.
Got to have a quick first step, Jimmy.
You got to have a quick first step, Danny.
You got to have a wide base and a quick step. That's a key to doing your job.
I do think what was interesting in that. So if you watch that play, and that's why baseball's great, because you always see stuff and you're like, wait, is that a catch? Wait, are we talking NFL, college football here? But when he turned, his arm got in a weird position. I thought he had the catch. Like you see, he secures the ball, and then he tumbles, and then it was almost like the ball was sneezed out of his glove. It shot out of there. But anyways, he said in that interview, he said he was trying to protect his shoulder. He's had a shoulder injury, so he was turning his body so that he wouldn't land on the shoulder and then maybe get injured again. And that's why the arm got in a weird position. But that was a fun game. I didn't know this, but apparently on that Twitter, you can't enjoy a Cardinal victory anymore without getting some blowback. But as a rights holder, I'm going to enjoy that one.
Yeah, I tried doing a morning talk show.
Well, I used to, Danny, and then I destroyed the radio station.
And that's why you're here on with us. We love it. I got to ask you, what was the general consensus of the players and Ollie and the coaches? And I know you didn't talk to everybody, but did they feel it was a catch or not a catch?
So the rule is pretty clear. It wasn't a catch. I think in the heat of the moment, you think it's a catch. And then when you think about what the rule is, and, of course, Danny, as you know, in addition to doing some physical training on avoiding the water bath, I'm constantly scanning the rule book. But, yeah, some of the guys, like Goldy said in the locker room once he understood what happened on the play, he knew it wasn't a catch. I think Siani also, after getting an explanation, knew it wasn't a catch. He said he was going to go back and look at the video. But I think most guys in the locker room and the clubhouse there realized that was not a catch. It was just a bad circumstance. He had secured it, and then it popped out. So I guess he had to stop totally with that play or reach into the glove to start the transfer for that to be the completion of the catch.
Well, and he was able to make it up with that 2-run single that helped the Cardinals win the game. So it did work out for him in the end. Jim, we were just talking about Paul Goldschmidt, and John Denton recently had an interview with him where Goldy says that he does want to play next season. Do you see that the Cardinals could possibly bring him back for next year? Obviously, a great game for him last night. He homered, finished with 3 hits and 3 RBIs, and has a 10-game hitting streak going on. Do you see that happening maybe for next year?
I haven't talked to anyone about that because there's so many other things that I think they're focused on right now. But if it were me, and I've talked about this with some of the media folks. I think I might be on an island on this. I've also said to some of my colleagues, but if that's me, I go to Goldy right now and I say, hey, look, we'd like to bring you back on a one-year deal. We can't spend a lot of money because obviously we have to start shoring up some other areas, but we'd like to bring you back, go to spring training, and if you're Goldy, you're at first base. If not, you're a valuable piece off the bench that can bring some pop and bring some great defense, and also one of those leadership guys that we've had a couple of on the roster that aren't playing a lot but provide leadership. That's maybe I'm crazy, but I do that because I think there's a danger, and this is now a 10-game hitting streak that he's on. And even though Goldy, he's not a guy who likes to talk about himself, and he's kind of leery about talking about the success he's having because, as he puts it, look, I've had good games where I think I found it, and then I'm bad for a long stretch. So he doesn't want to admit that right now he looks like a different hitter at the plate. But if I'm the Cardinals, I would be concerned about letting him go somewhere else on a one-year deal, and then he's Goldy again. Maybe that makes me crazy, but I would see if there's a way you could work it out where he'll come back on a deal that isn't a ton of money. I think he also is the kind of guy realizes he didn't live up to his end of the bargain this year. Maybe he would agree to take a one-year deal at a not expansive cost.
Jim, how is Ollie going to use some of the young players here down the stretch? And you got Siani back, you got Victor Scott. Now an older player returns to a rotation as Steven Matz. And what I mean is you kind of got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're 5.5 back in the wild card, so mathematically you're still hanging around and they're playing pretty good baseball, but yet you still would like to see a little bit of the future, like, for instance, a Luke and Baker against lefties, things like that. So how has Ollie said that they're going to use this roster down the stretch?
They're going to let the young players have some runway, as Ollie puts, especially a guy like Jordan Walker. We're going to see him in there. I think Burleson should be in there every day. The problem is you got a lot of guys fighting for time. Like, I think Siani deserves to be in center, right? But Victor Scott II has been dynamite in center. He's gotten better and better offensively. You want to see more of that. So there's going to be a crunch in the space to give people that runway. And by the way, I'm happy that Matz was back last night. He looked good, struck out a bunch of guys, looked like his fastball had life, and he was painting the corners a little bit with it. His changeup looked good. But I did not have him on my bingo card for getting the start yesterday. To me, that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, why do you think that was? Any indication from Ollie as to why that took place? Because to me, Jim, I'm a big fan of him coming out of the bullpen, and I know he's got a year left on his deal, and the way that things are going financially for the club, maybe they say, look, we have certainty with him, he goes in our rotation. But I am really curious in how they're going to use him here down the stretch.
Well, part of this, I think, had to do with giving the rotation, specifically Fetty, an extra day. So they wanted to push him back. So they gave Matz the start. Maybe they just wanted to see what Matz had, another guy that you have to look at for next year. He's been injury plagued, not just this year, but in the past in his brief time with the Cardinals. But they do owe him a lot of money. He's been good out of the bullpen. I think they wanted to see what they had with him. I do think they're trying to strike a balance between playing good baseball and trying to see what they can do, but at the same time trying to win games. And they are playing good baseball right now.
We are talking to Jim Hayes from Valley Sports Midwest. And speaking of guys who are possibly going to be in the bullpen or now in the bullpen, Matthew Liberatore last night, I thought in the game that was a situation where you could have went with Ryan Helsley probably a little bit earlier, but they went with Matthew Liberatore, and obviously it worked out really well from him. It seems like he's really solidified that role in the bullpen.
He's got a different demeanor. Look, he looks nasty. He looks angry coming out of the pen. His fastball now gets up to 98 miles an hour, and his curveball, he has confidence in that pitch again. So we're seeing a guy sort of emerge or reemerge as a bullpen piece. He's a guy I think could end up closing games if you needed him to, and he has a rubber arm. Like he said growing up that people used to tell him all the time, you're throwing too much, you're going to hurt your arm. He thinks that made him stronger, and now he can go multiple innings, multiple days. He says, just give me the ball, and I love it.
Jim, what about the situation here in St. Louis? And obviously the last homestand, it wasn't pretty with the crowds. It's no secret. Not a lot of people were showing up. How is the club, in terms of the players kind of responding to that? Ollie's addressed it. What are you hearing a little bit on that front?
They're locked in on playing, and if you ask me, Danny, fans can do whatever they want to do, right? I mean, it's their money. I think criticizing fans is the worst thing you could do. They're the customers, and if they want to show up and that's how they spend their money, good for them. If they don't, that's their choice. It's really about being an entertainment customer. If they're not going and enjoying the games, they're not going to go. So you got to play better baseball. Simple as that in my book.
Jim, it's so great chatting with you, and continue with your great work of avoiding the water baths and everything that you do. By the way, I love the interview, too, that you had pregame, where you really, I've always told you this, you do a great job of really doing investigative journalism, and you got to the bottom of some consternation that was going on amongst the players with fantasy football.
Yeah, Helsley is the commissioner of their fantasy football league, and he made it seem like Kyle Gibson just backed away from it. Then Gibson enters the fray and says, no, that's not true. There was a coup in the bullpen. They decided while I was pitching to get rid of me because they did not like the rules. And, we all brought that to light. As you know, Brooke, journalism sheds light on facts. So we did a good thing for baseball, for the Cardinals, and for the fans watching. But thank you for having me on.
Yes. We greatly appreciate it. We appreciate your wonderful journalism. And you are a celebrity, Jim. You are.
Thank you. You're too kind.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jim. That was Jim Hayes of Bally Sports Midwest. It's always great having him on. Coming up next, we have the fight, and we need a new fighter today to take me on. Dan, eventually we need to get you in one of these fights.
I'm good. You're it. You're running this show. No. This is all you.
I always like to just double check to see if today's the day.
Love to see you showing off your knowledge. It's great.
All right. Well, we have the fight coming up next. So get your texts into the Air Comfort Service text line. That is 314-399-9646. 314-399. Yo-ho! If you want to fight me, coming up next.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals walk away with a win again, Game 2 against the Brewers, 7-4. Steven Matz, back from the injured list, gets his first start in a long time. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, but also 2 home runs allowed for Matz. Paul Goldschmidt also has a big day, goes 3 of 5 with 3 RBI, including a home run for him. And then, of course, you had the theatrics in the extra innings. But again, the Cardinals walk away with a victory, 7-4. They'll try to get a win in this series today as they close out with Game 3 against the Brewers with another 6:40 first pitch. Sonny Gray on the mound for the Cardinals. Speaking of Cardinals starting pitchers, Kyle Gibson joins Brooke and Danny coming up later on the show at 9:15. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Time for the fight on the Morning Drive program. Opening drive, morning drive. First one out of the chute.
It's the morning drive program called the Opening Drive.
Thank you, Rocc.
No problem here.
Needed some help. It's 8:40 here in St. Louis. Danny Mac with you. That's Matthew Rocchio. Brooke has stepped out of the studio. And Randy's on a well-deserved vacation. And let's welcome in our fighter today, and that is Steve. Steve, welcome to 101 ESPN.
Hey, great to be here. I hope we don't get beat up too bad.
Oh, you won't get beat up too badly. So, have you ever been in a fight? Is this your first time?
First time on here, yes.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for playing. And away we go. Here is the first question. The last 3 times the Missouri Tigers have finished with a top 10 AP ranking, they have played in the same bowl game. Which bowl game is that? So the last 3 times the Tigers have finished with a top 10 AP ranking, they have played in the same bowl game. Which bowl game is that?
Options.
Is it the Sugar Bowl, the Gator Bowl, or the Cotton Bowl?
I'm going with the Cotton Bowl. Final answer.
All right.
Chris Sale recently rang up his 200th strikeout of the season, passing that mark for the 8th time in his career. Who is the only lefty with double-digit 200-plus strikeout seasons? Is that Steve Carlton, Randy Johnson, or Clayton Kershaw?
I think I need to go with Steve Carlton. Final answer.
Question 3. In terms of points allowed per game, what is the greatest scoring defense in NFL history at just 2.3 points per game? So in terms of points allowed per game, what is the greatest scoring defense in NFL history at just 10.3 points per game? Is it the 2002 Buccaneers, the 1986 Bears, or the 2000 Ravens?
I want to say Buccaneers, but I'm going to go with Ravens. Final answer.
All right.
All right. And number 4, who is the only second baseman to ever win the World Series MVP? Is that Bobby Richardson, Rogers Hornsby, or Joe Morgan?
I have no idea, so I'm going to go with Rogers Hornsby since I'm a homer.
All right. We're bringing in Brooke Grimsley. How do you feel you did today, Steve?
I'll be happy with 3. I'm thinking maybe 2. I don't know.
Oh, don't get greedy now, Steve. Everyone would be happy with 3. That's getting a little greedy there. I'd be happy with 3. Everyone would be happy with 3, Steve. Brooke Grimsley is back in studio. It would help if I turned on the correct mic. There we go. Hey, there you go on the camera.
Yesterday too,
yeah, I know. I get locked into the muscle memory. I always turn on mic 4 when we do this part of the fight because that's when Randy walks in. So I just got to break my habit there. But Brooke's on the camera. You can see her on our lovely YouTube cameras provided by the Air Alliance Heating and Cooling team. Brooke, you ready for the fight?
I am. And you said this was Steve?
Yes, I had a Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Brooke.
Steve is a great name. That is my father's name, and my dog's name is named Stevie. So I like Steve's, basically, is what I'm telling you.
Party's a little hard, though.
Your dog is Stevie?
Yeah, my dog's name is Stevie Nicks.
All right, nice.
All right. Little unknown fact that's now public.
Yeah,
No, she talks about that. Yeah, people do
We
that.
do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do talk. It's okay.
Brooke talking about her dog? No.
No, it's
I
crazy.
love that.
I don't post about her all the time, too. I might be a little obsessed. It's okay.
Are we ready with question 1?
Yes.
The last 3 times the Missouri Tigers have finished with a top 10 AP ranking, they have played in the same bowl game. Which bowl game is that?
That would be... Well, they were 9 last year. Then the Cotton Bowl. So I'd say Cotton Bowl.
Final answer?
Yes.
Question 2, Rocc.
Chris Sale recently rang up his 200th strikeout of this season, passing that mark for the 8th time in his career. Who is the only lefty with double-digit 200-plus strikeout seasons?
Ooh.
That sounds like an option question. Ooh, is not a...
No,
Oh, no options? You get 2.
I feel like Steve Carlton would be a safe choice here. So, yeah, I'll just go with Steve Carlton.
In terms of points allowed per game, what is the greatest scoring defense in NFL history at just 10.3 points per game? In terms of points allowed per game, what is the greatest scoring defense in NFL history at just 10.3 points per game?
Greatest scoring defense in NFL history? That's what you said?
Yes.
I'm going to need options on this.
2002 Buccaneers, 1986 Bears, or the 2000 Ravens?
I'm not sure. Maybe the Bears?
The
No?
1986 Bears,
Buccaneers?
the 2002 Buccaneers.
You said the 2002 Buccaneers?
That's one of the options.
I'll do Bears. I'll just go with the first one here.
Okay. On to question 4.
Who is the only second baseman to ever win the World Series MVP?
Options, please.
Bobby Richardson, Rogers Hornsby, or Joe Morgan?
Ooh, those are all good ones. I feel like if Rogers Hornsby's on the list, then that's usually the way to go here. I'm trying to get into the mind of Matthew Rocchio on this one.
Don't go there. No, you don't want to go there.
Definitely don't want to.
That's a rough place. You don't want to go there.
Okay, I'll go with Hornsby.
Final answer?
Yes.
Matthew, do your thing, please.
We have a winner in today's fight. Mercifully, no tiebreaker is needed, which is good because the clock couldn't take it. We have a winner in today's fight. Does Brooke Grimsley, the Grim Reaper, take another soul with her? Or does Steve come in as a first-time fighter? It works. I'm sorry. The image works. The word works. It's perfect. Or does Steve walk away as a first-time fighter and a first-time winner? Ring that bell.
The winner and new champion of the fight, Average Joe Listener.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
Well, Brooke, even Keith Richards has proven us that the Grim Reaper sometimes misses and can't take every soul. So this time, Steve got you. He beat you by a score of 2-1 in today's fight. Congratulations, Steve, on the win in the fight today.
Thank you. I think she would have beat me if she had the options too, though. So I'll take it.
Those were
I appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations, Steve.
Steve, just keep rolling with that. Just keep rolling with that in your head. Think about that for the next 23 hours and then toss it out right before you come on for round 2 tomorrow. Let's go through the questions and answers in that fight. The last 3 times the Missouri Tigers have finished with top 10 AP rankings. They have played in the same bowl game. Which bowl game is that? That, of course, is 2007 when they finished number 4, 2013 when they finished number 5, and last season when they finished number 8. They played in the Cotton Bowl in all 3 of those postseasons, and they won the Cotton Bowl in all 3 of those postseasons. Chris Sale recently rang up his 200th strikeout, passing that mark for the 8th time in his career. He tied Steve Carlton at 8 times. The only one to do it in double digits is Randy Johnson, who racked up 13 200-plus strikeout seasons. Steve Carlton's a good... We talk about Steve Carlton, the greatness of Steve Carlton, and the amount of World Series that the Cardinals would have, 13, if they hadn't traded him. So it was a good... You ran with what's gotten stuck in your brain, which is the best strategy to go with on the fight. If you feel like there's something sticky, just roll with it. In terms of points allowed per game, the greatest scoring defense in NFL history at just 10.3 points per game is the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. The 1986 Bears are number 2. They are actually higher than the 1985 Bears, and then my beloved 2002 Buccaneers a little bit lower on the run, but still there. And we've done the question that lets you know there's only one second baseman to ever win the World Series MVP, but we didn't say who, and it is Bobby Richardson of the 1960 New York Yankees. Rogers Hornsby, I think, would have racked one up, but they didn't start giving out the World Series MVP until 1955. So a 2-1 win for Steve in the fight today. Congratulations, Steve, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steve. You know what, Dan? I always have a rule of thumb here when it comes to Matthew Rocchio questions. It's either Bob Gibson, as we know, Rogers Hornsby, or Bernie Federko.
Bernie Federko's on there a lot.
Yeah, so that's where I was trying to go with that strategy there.
Also, if the answer of a now defunct, unused NHL team is on there, there's a good chance it's not the answer, but I always will use a reason. I always take any chance I get to use California Golden Seals, Quebec Nordiques, or Hartford Whalers. I'll do it every single time I get a chance. Every time I get the chance, I will use one of those 3 teams every single time.
You do a good job on these questions, Matthew.
Yeah, those are really
thought-provoking.
Yeah, they are very thought-provoking. All right, that was the fight. Coming up next, we have our Rush Hour Reset. Was it a catch or not for Michael Siani? We'll discuss that coming up here on the Opening Drive.
thought he had the catch. Like you see, he secures the ball, and then he tumbles, and then it was almost like the ball was sneezed out of his glove. It shot out of there. But anyways, he said in that interview, he said he was trying to protect his shoulder. He's had a shoulder injury, so he was turning his body so that he wouldn't land on the shoulder and then maybe get injured again.
That was Jim Hayes earlier talking about Michael Siani. Obviously, it was one of the greatest, probably should have been, could have been, would have been catches for Michael Siani there in the 11th inning. The ball just slipped out, Dan, and the Cardinals challenged it, but the call stood after the replay. But was that the right call, in your opinion? I think there's a lot of different people, and we got text in earlier about this, where it's hard to really tell either way. There's so many people on many different sides here.
Yeah, I think it was the right call. I go back and forth. When I watched it live, I thought it was loose. And then when I watch it on slow motion and frame by frame, I think, well, knees are down, shoulders down. He's trying to probably bring the glove back up to show it as to whether or not it was a catch. But I think they got the call right. I do.
Yeah, and he was able to come through in the 12th inning, and he didn't get the clutch catch, but the clutch hit is what he was able to provide.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting, if you're a Cardinal fan out there, is you wonder how much does he play as opposed to Victor Scott here down the stretch. And I keep talking about this 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're 5.5 out in the wild card, so still with 23 games left, it's going to be a challenge, to say the least, but you owe it to yourself to give you your best shot to try to get into postseason play, and that may be far-fetched. I understand that, but that's still the scenario that they're in, is that, I'm still trying to figure out who is Michael Siani. It's been 5 months. It hasn't been a year. It hasn't been 2 years. It hasn't been 3. I'm still trying to figure out what kind of player he is. He looks to be a very good player. I know what kind of defensive player he is. He's really good, but is this sustainable? And I think that's one of the questions that the Cardinals are asking themselves, is what we're seeing, is this a one-off, or is this the kind of guy that we can rely upon moving forward?
Well, and you have Victor Scott II ready to go. How do you see the outfield just to start the season next season shaping out?
I don't know. What do you got?
I think Jordan Walker, obviously, will be a part of that. Then I have Victor Scott II and Lars Nootbaar, maybe. But then and maybe this is just me, is that I think Michael Siani would be great. Another great outfield option for you.
I got Siani ahead of Victor Scott right now. So I would put him in center. I'd put Walker in right. And it's just because Siani's done it more at the big league level than Victor Scott. Now, if you're asking me about an upside, I think the upside might be greater with Victor Scott, but I got to see it more than just, a month here, a month there. I got to see it on a consistent basis. But if you're asking about opening day, I'd say Siani in center. I'd go Walker in right. And I'd probably look at Nootbaar being mixed in there too.
I think that's a pretty good outfield.
Yeah.
It's a young outfield.
It's a young outfield.
Yes.
A lot of it would be contingent on the progression of Jordan Walker. And, you go back to what's happened this year. If he's the type of player that they thought he was going to be, that we're not having the conversation of them being 11 games back in the Central and 5.5 out in the wild card. They needed him to be Jordan Walker, and they need him to take another step forward and not be the player that was hitting 150 for the better part of the season when he was sent down. So if you can have Jordan Walker emerge, then you got something going forward next year for sure.
They're looking for that pop in the outfield is what you're talking about there.
Well, he's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to be.
He has to be. That's a big portion of it. I think that there is a big upside with Victor Scott II, and I see him more as kind of the future center fielder. And so that's my thought process with next season is I'm looking at the future of the organization and the guy who will be that. Not saying that Michael Siani maybe couldn't be that guy, but if I'm just looking future-wise, I think that VS2 is that person.
Yeah, I can see that mindset as well, but I like what I see out of Siani, and he's got a chance to be a very good player.
Yeah. Well, coming up next, we do have our Rush Hour Reset, and we're going to talk about Paul Goldschmidt. You got a lot of texts in earlier, and we're going to recap that. Do you see Paul Goldschmidt returning for next season? We'll discuss that coming up here on the opening drive. Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and this year we decided it was time to make a major upgrade to our home by updating our bathroom. We have this house in U City. It's over 100 years old, and we love it, but we never exactly loved our main bathroom. So we decided to reach out to one of our great sponsors here of 101 ESPN, and that is E&B Granite. E&B Granite's team visited our house for a free consultation, and they came up with a vision of how to really transform our bathroom. My favorite part of working with E&B Granite was stopping by their amazing showroom to explore their large selection of in-stock custom countertops, all of their cabinet options. It was so much fun picking out the new colors for our bathroom. Jen was the one who was working with us, and she is fantastic. You have to go over there and meet her in their showroom. She had so many great ideas for us that really fit within our budget. And that's what they've been doing there at E&B Granite for over 20 years, turning visions into realities. So schedule your free consultation by calling this number, 314-645-9300, or go online at embgranite.com, or stop by their amazing showroom today and make sure you mention that I sent you. Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocco here. Randy Carricker with the well-deserved week off. And the Cardinals were able to pull off a thrilling win in Milwaukee last night. If you were able to stay up and watch that one, they were able to win 7-4 in 12 innings. There was a lot of things that happened in the game, Dan, and a lot of positives and heroes. I would say that Paul Goldschmidt definitely stands out in the game, and we discussed Michael Siani and his clutch hit earlier, and the coulda, woulda, shoulda been catch that he had there that would have been amazing, of course, but he was able to come through in the 12th inning with a 2-run single to help the Cardinals get the win over the Brewers. And so now it will be a rubber match today with Sonny Gray on the mound. But going back to Goldy, he continues to really rip the baseball right now. He went 3 for 5 last night with a home run and 3 RBIs, 10-game hitting streak for him. But the big question is, we know that his contract is coming to an end at the end of the season. So what happens moving forward? Because he's even said it himself. This has been a rough year for him too.
It has been, yeah. And if he was to the point and level, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, if he was to the point where he needed to be and could have been, and he's a proud guy, then this team is in a different spot. You know, the one thing that has happened with him, and you can look at the peripherals, and I understand what John Dent was talking about the other day with the hard hit rate being up and on par with his 2022 season and things of that nature. His K rate, though, has soared. His walk rate has diminished. He's got 288 on base percentage. So when you mix in those things, that's in the boxes of, man, it's going to be tough to bring him back. But I do think you can look at it because, you know, let's just say this. If you don't bring him back, then Burleson's your first baseman. And then what does that mean for Lucan Baker? Is he a platoon guy? Is he a right-handed bat to face lefties and get some occasional starts? That's something to look at. That's something that the front office has to figure out. And so far, Lucan Baker's looked very good against left-handed pitching, and he did so in the minor leagues. But Jim Hayes brought up a really interesting point, and it's one that I know that it won't show up on a stat sheet, but what does he mean for young players? What's he mean of being a veteran? And then the thing I bring up is that you're not going to find a better defensive player than Goldy at first base. So trying to figure out a 1-year deal, maybe a 2-year deal, 1 year with an option, something of that nature. I'm sure it's being discussed right now. And really, he's been one of the reasons why they're winning down the stretch and just hanging on by a thread. And, for them, hopefully having a shot here before the end of the season is through.
And he turns 37 next week. Here is Paul Goldschmidt after the game last night.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when, getting some pitches and able to hit them hard and find some holes and all this stuff that I've been trying to do all year, and just, like I said, didn't really do it for about 5 months outside of maybe a week or two here and there. And, been able to play a little bit better now and hopefully can continue that for the rest of the year, but you never know what's going to happen.
And that's Paul Goldschmidt. I know that sometimes, especially in his interview comments, he doesn't sound maybe like the most exciting of players. But, Dan, you touched on this earlier, and it's really important to note here that in that clubhouse, he is very much a valued voice in there.
Yeah, he is. And he's respected, around the game. I don't think we talk enough about the guy that has been unbelievable this year, but Ryan Helsley went 2 innings last night. You mentioned it earlier, Matthew Liberatore. The bullpen as a whole last night, Fernandez inning in a third, Romero an inning, Kittredge an inning, Liberatore 2, high leverage, Helsley obviously high leverage. The Cardinals are 52-6 when Ryan Helsley pitches in a game. 52-6. That's how good he's been. And the other thing is, give a little credit here to Steven Matz. Didn't go all that deep into the game, pitched into the 5th, 4 2/3, but struck out 7. And it's one of those things, like, are you trying to find out what you have in him? Are you trying to showcase him? Are you trying to make sure that you get something out of him before this season is through? Is he in your rotation next year? These are all questions surrounding him as they move forward here in 2024, too.
I definitely thought last night, I was very surprised, to get in that start. I thought that was a great question that you had with Jim Haves earlier about if he was even surprised that Steven Matz got the start yesterday, because at first that I thought that maybe it would be a bullpen role to start things out, because I think that he would be a great piece to have at the bullpen. We saw it last year with him, and so I was surprised that they had him start. And with the 6-man rotation that you have now, but at the same time, still seeing Steven Matz, he was able to do a lot of things right. I just still am set on him being a bullpen role.
Then moving forward, let's just say, for argument's sake, we're going to visit with Cal Gibson here coming up, and Lance Lynn as well with an option. If you don't bring them back, you have Gray, you got Fetty, you got Michaelis, you got Palante, and you got Matt. So if you don't have changes, or if you're reducing payroll in some regard, so let's say you don't bring Goldy back, you don't bring Gibson back, you don't bring Lynn back, that's about $40 to $50 million off the books. Then Steven Matz is probably in your rotation next year.
Yeah, that is very true with what you just said there. I'm just thinking about it. Are they also possibly, and of course we don't know what's going on inside the organization right now, showcasing him where they could move him maybe this offseason?
Well, that's what I just said, yeah. I mean, I think that's something that, you look at and say, hey, we got a healthy guy. He's at a reasonable price. And I look at it this way. I mean, anything's on the table for the Cardinals moving forward. I mean, anything. With what's happened the last 2 years. Now, if you're looking for cost certainty, then you have it in Gray, Fetty, Michaelis, Palante, and Matz. But if you're looking at a different direction, then Steven Matz may be one of those guys that you'd say, we dangle him out there and see what, if you're the Cardinals, see what we can get.
That's Dan Brocchio, and I'm Brooke. Coming up next, we will go to the celebrity line to talk to Cardinals pitcher Kyle Gibson. That's next here on 101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird report on 101 ESPN.
Brooke Grimsley here for your Redbird report. The Cardinals pull off a thrilling win in Milwaukee last night. Michael Siani just missed making a game-ending diving catch in the 11th inning, but came through with the winning hit in the 12th, a 2-run single to help the Cardinals beat the Brewers 7-4. Paul Goldschmidt homered, finishing with 3 hits and 3 RBIs, and has a 10-game hitting streak. Steven Matz made his first major league start since April 30th and worked 4 2/3 with a season-high 7 strikeouts. He gave up a pair of solo homers before he was pulled after allowing a 2-out double in the 5th inning. Sonny Gray will get the start as the Cardinals play their final game against the Brewers this season. First pitch is at 6:40 in the rubber match.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for Universal Windows Direct. Football season is here, and you know what that means. Fall is just around the corner, and with cooler temperatures on the way, it's time to make sure that your home is ready. If you've been dealing with drafty windows all summer, struggling on those crazy hot days, your AC working overtime, now is the perfect time to upgrade with Universal Windows Direct before the cold weather starts to kick in here. Their windows feature super spacer technology, which makes their windows perform better, last longer, and helps keep your home more comfortable no matter the season. Plus, Universal Windows Direct backs it all up with a true lifetime warranty as long as you own the home and a 20-year warranty to the next homeowner. Schedule your free in-home estimate today, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 for free, plus 0% financing for 60 months. That is 5 years. Restrictions apply. Mention my name and you get an additional $250 off your next project. So go to uwd.com. That's uwd.com. And like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows. Brooke, Dan, and Rocc here. We are waiting to hear from Kyle Gibson. But in the meantime, we have some fantasy football stuff to talk about because we will discuss that with Kyle Gibson coming up here shortly because Big League Impact, every single year they have this great fantasy football event, Dan, over at the ballpark. And I'm a little bit nervous because, as you guys heard, if you were listening earlier in the show, we had our 101 ESPN fantasy football draft last night. And I looked at my grading that Yahoo gave me, and they were pretty brutal, Dan. They gave me a D+ and said that this was not going to be a great year for me.
Who got the best grades? Do we know? Is that made within the league,
I can
or is
give
it
that to you?
Okay? And how many people are Rocc up? You're part of this too, right?
Dozen cousin.
Okay, dozen cousin. We got on-air people. We got producers. We got behind-the-scenes people. We got everybody here, or what?
Yeah, a little bit of everybody.
A little bit of everything. It's mostly and then we get one non-ESPN person in there with Donnie.
Donnie Fandango?
Donnie Fandango.
Oh, he's ESPN.
He is.
He's back filling in on ESPN now.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he was on the Fast Lane the other day.
Right. So
correct about that. My bad.
He's part of the family for sure.
Yeah, so it looks like, I think CD is up there. I think he had one of the better grades. I think T-Bone had one of the better grades as well, but my team is not looking fantastic. And look, I can make a lot of excuses, and I tried to earlier, Dan. I was at my mother-in-law's birthday dinner, and so I was, of course, distracted. And, I was picked 10th. So did I make enough excuses for why I didn't do well for this year's fantasy football draft?
No, these are legitimate. Keep going.
They gave me a D2, bro.
I was
hungry.
Here's
the thing. Like, I've never won a league while getting, like, an A rank from my draft. You're going to win your league based on your midseason pickups. Whether or not you're first on the waiver wire when that, second-year running back that no one thought to draft, blows up for an 150-yard game after the starting running back pops their ACL. Like, that's how you win these things a lot of the years. It's never, you don't make your bones completely in the draft. You got to be out there on the waiver wire.
Yeah, and that's where I succeeded last year, because last year I didn't have a great team as well, but one of my great pickups, Dan, Rashee Rice, and he worked out really well for me last year. I tried to bring him back this year. Of course, somebody took him, but somebody was asking, what is my team name? My team name is very timely. It is Herbert's Elevator Club. If you missed the story, Justin Herbert, he showed his leadership capabilities in the elevator here recently, and I found that to be inspiring. So that's kind of the story of my team going the year. Some other creative names, Taking Shots with Ricky, that is the Randy Carricker's fantasy football team.
Okay, I like
Another very timely one if you have been paying attention to the news. That is unfortunate. By the way, that player is completely fine, by the way. I feel like I should say that. Now, who I have on my team, somebody else asked that. I have Patrick Mahomes, Harrison Jr., Pittman Jr., Derrick Henry, which that was one of my first picks that I was getting a lot of bad.
Harrison Jr. and Pittman Jr. I mean, you're talking about two number one options for teams that are going to throw the ball a fair amount. It's pretty good.
Okay. And then I have Kittle. I have Ridley. It might have been the little Tennessee, Titans in me that wanted to go with that.
1,000 yards last year, though.
Yeah, I have Cleveland's defense. So I
Come on now. See, this is the thing. We're getting a lot of texts now, and I'm agreeing with these texts here. In the history of our league in Yahoo, no one's who ever got an A grade has ever won the league. Don't feel bad about that grade. Brooke, if you get a grade, that's the kiss. If you get a good grade, that's the kiss of death.
Last year, I was trying to remember. I think I picked up Cooper Kupp, or it was somebody. I think it was Cooper Kupp, and then he was injured. There was a certain player that was definitely a great wide receiver that was supposed to be amazing last year, and then got injured early on. So, how do you approach? Do you play fantasy football, Dan?
I play with my kids. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do a draft here probably tonight or tomorrow at some point before the opening of the kickoff of the season, and they dominate it. They are so into it, which is fun. It's something to connect with them and have fun with them. So, yeah, I'll play a little bit. I did not get invited to our ESPN league, or maybe I just missed the memo.
Whoa. Brandon Kiley.
Who's our commissioner?
The problem is you got to go find a 14th. We can't play we can't have a 13-man league. You got to go find a 14th.
So you just kick Dan out?
No, he has to go find a 14th.
It sounds like playing golf and you're with a threesome and they say we already have a foursome. That's what that sounds like.
It does, yeah.
Listen, sometimes the truth hurts, all right?
Now, is there financial stake in this league?
Yes.
There is.
There's a buy-in.
There was money involved. $50. And I don't like to lose money, Dan.
No one does.
Especially $50. I don't know how your friends deal with it. Especially, as you mentioned, Monday was pretty hard with the Boston College win for them. I know that your friends probably suffered a little bit with that.
They did. Would this shock you? The American Gaming Association estimates that $35 billion will be wagered on the NFL this season. $35 billion. I didn't think it was going to be that high. Rocc, you were thinking right around there, right? When we were talking about this before the show?
Yeah, we were talking about this before the show, and you were like, yeah, I was kind of surprised it was that low. I don't know how you see the
excuse me, that low.
Yeah, I don't know how you see 35 billion,
35 billion.
I don't know how you see 35 billion, and your reaction is, oh, that's it?
I know.
Like my reaction was,
dear
everybody's sweet
gambling.
Lord Almighty, that's a lot of money.
Gambling.
Yeah, everyone's gambling,
All your
but
friends.
still,
yes,
that means that if every person in America put down was betting, they'd be betting $100.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money for every single American. That's when you put it in that scope.
It's a ton.
Actually, I don't even know if my math. It might be $1,000. I think my math might be a little bit off. I'm not 100% sure.
It's crazy.
It's insane how much money that is.
$35 billion, and I actually thought it was low.
Fantasy football has just really, I mean, the NFL was already doing great ratings-wise, but don't you think that it's amplified it because of that, because of the betting? Now I'm paying attention to teams that I wouldn't necessarily pay attention to before because I have interest in my players.
Yeah, Tanner had the best team, everybody thought?
I think a lot of people do believe that with his pickups. Did he get McCaffrey, or am I just imagining that?
He did not have the first pick, so no.
Oh, okay.
By the way, it would be $35 billion. If it was each American would have to bet $106 this football season.
Yeah, that seems about right.
That seems insane to me.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money,
There's a lot of children out there, Danny. There's the infirm.
I think there's certain people that I talk to that are true friends of mine, that they say once football is here, they start betting. And then when football's over, they don't do the NBA, they don't do college basketball, they don't do anything. They just do the NFL and maybe dabble a little bit in college football.
Oh, dabble.
Do you have your friends have any pieces of advice for early season NFL betting? Because the only axiom that I've ever seen that actually works with college football early season is returning starters, returning snaps.
Yes.
So if you're returning a bunch of starters or returning a bunch of snaps, and there's a low amount of turnover, that's usually a way to grade a team out. For instance, Florida State has about 30 new players this year.
Boston College does not.
Right. Kind of see how that played out on Monday. Do you have any axioms like that when it comes to NFL early season?
I don't.
Especially now with preseason being thrown completely off, I feel like you don't see a team actually run at the level you would expect them for a long period of time until week 4.
Yeah, I get a lot of people that stay away for the first month.
That makes sense.
They obviously don't pay attention to preseason, means nothing. Not going to see the regulars, not going to see much of the playbook. You're not going to see a lot of things you're going to see in regular season play. But the guys and friends of mine that are like really into it, And there's some that are pretty good at it. They stay away from the first month. And to me, it's just people do it for fun, but these guys are serious.
They're very serious.
They are serious. They're all over it.
I'm kind of putting you on the spot here because I know that sports betting is on the ballot here soon. In my opinion, and I haven't really taken a deep dive into this, but I feel like Missouri needs that, where you have that available in the state, because you have it in all the other surrounding states. I'm sure a lot of your friends have to go over to Illinois to place some bets, so why not have that here in Missouri?
Now, isn't that the case? Like, if you're betting on FanDuel, you can place the bet in the state of Missouri, but then the minute that you cross the bridge, literally it dings.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, and then your bet is placed and away you go. I don't know, man. You got $35 billion on the NFL, and we're not a state that can do that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, and that's where I'm wondering if this will finally be the year that comes through, because it's a lot of money that you get for your state, and I see the benefit of it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think most people, I can't say most, don't want to speak for everybody, but I think a lot of people are on board with that.
Yeah, I think so too. Were we able to get Kyle Gibson? Probably not.
No, unfortunately, we have not been able to connect with Gibby. Maybe next segment, maybe close out the show with Gibby, but unfortunately, we have not been able to connect with Gibby, which is a bummer because I wanted to hear him talk about the event coming up on Friday, because I'm excited to draft my fantasy team. My draft yesterday in the 101 league did not necessarily damper my fantasy hopeful. That comes after week one when everything blows up in my face, but I'm excited to draft.
So ESPN has a team for the Wayno thing?
Brooke, me, and Randy, if Brooke and Randy actually accept their teams, have teams in Kyle Gibson's portion of the Big League Impact overall tournament. Is kind of how it works.
Oh,
so we draft our teams on Friday night, and then things I get going the next week.
So do you guys go down to the ballpark and do this too?
Yes.
So you do the whole ballpark experience,
got the whole event and everything. So so hopefully we can get Kyle on later on today, and if not today, hopefully tomorrow, because I believe he starts on Friday, and talk about the event coming up, because it's always exciting. I love the BLI events. This is my first time getting to participate in the fantasy football event, but knowing all the golf events and other events that I've been around with BLI, they put on such an incredible performance every single time, no matter where the event is, no matter what it is, and so I'm excited for it.
Awesome.
I am too. I will probably do just as bad as I did with this other fantasy football draft, Dan, but I will do my darndest. How about that?
I like it. Good luck.
I'm going to dabble in it. I'm going to do my darndest.
Brooke's going to walk away and just be like, Brooke, how'd your first round? Oh, I drafted Derrick Henry again. I have no idea what happened.
I don't know
seriously,
how this keeps happening.
The number one pick is Christian McCaffrey. It's got to be.
Yes.
And then after that, where do you go?
Is this Tanner who texted in from the 618 that said, how did I pick third and get Christian McCaffrey?
No. McCaffrey went first overall.
I can't even remember who picked when, Dan. I just know that I was 10th. I think
BK got first overall pick again as the commissioner.
Was it rigged?
2 out of 3 years.
Okay.
Dan,
he threw us off the trail last year and then jumped right back on.
There's something a little suspicious about it because we weren't there when it happened. When did he do it? How did he do the draft order?
I set it up himself, cheated. I don't know.
Ooh,
it's
taking shots at BK.
And he left you out of it. So there's a lot of fishy things going on here.
I didn't even know about it. I'm offended. Somehow I'll get over it. I already am. Now, is there a lot of
way.
Are you guys all on a text chain here too?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. That's what makes it fun.
There's no trash talking yet.
Yeah.
No.
It already started, I'm sure.
There's no trash talking.
No.
Okay.
BK doesn't take it too seriously.
Oh, I'm sure he's all over it.
He just got on Twitter and was pumping Tanner's tires about his juggernaut of a team.
That. All right, we will keep trying to effort Kyle Gibson, but coming up next, we're going to take a look at what we think the Cardinals' 25 starting rotation will look like. That's ahead here on the opening drive.
All right, we are finally under 48 hours, just a day away from the NFL season finally returning, which means it's the best time of the year for some daily fantasy with our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. The best time of the year. Kickoff's finally here, and over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by competing on Underdog, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite players' stats, yards, passing yards, touchdowns, just those little things. In fact, let's start one right now on the entry. We're going to start one for Friday's game. I've already got a couple entries in for Thursdays. Let's start one for Friday's special game in Brazil. We're going to go higher than 37.5 rushing yards for Jalen Hurts, higher than 255.5 passing yards for Jordan Love. So we're higher on Jalen Hurts rushing, higher on Jordan Love passing, and that's just two. Start that out as your entry. Continue adding to it again. You're going to take your odds up higher and higher. You can get close to that 1,000 times your money that we were just talking about. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. You just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to claim your new customer special of a free pick in your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present to state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Customers of play call winner of the game or visit www.nspgambling.org. This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals yesterday with a big win over the Brewers, 7-4 in extra innings. Steven Matz returns from the injured list and gives his first start. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, but 2 home runs allowed. Again, the Cardinals with a victory, 7-4 over the Brewers. Rubber match today, 6:40 first pitch. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocco here, and you should get signed up today to play in this year's Fast Lane Pick'em Challenge at 101ESPN.com. Make your football picks each week and see if you can beat the Fast Lane and the dudes from the Rizzuto Show. The Fast Lane and the Riz Show are throwing down all football season long in the Pick'em Challenge. Get signed up before Thursday's season opener to play in the Pick'em Challenge at 101ESPN.com. Speaking of Weech. What did I made a word there. Speaking of which, there we go. Each week, the Fast Lane and the Rizzuto Show are battling in the Pick'em Challenge, but sometimes they come together just to hang out and watch some football in person. You can join Scott Rizzuto from the Rizzuto Show and the Gary Davis this Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30 at Hot Shots in St. Charles. Come watch the NFL season kickoff Thursday night and get signed up for some 101 ESPN and point giveaways and enjoy some cold Bud Light. That is this Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. with CD and the Riz Show at Hot Shots in St. Charles, brought to you by Bud Light. Now, we were talking about this earlier. We saw Steven Matz last night, and I think it brings up the question of what will the starting rotation look like next season, because there's a lot of question marks. Do you think the Cardinals will bring back Kyle Gibson, who we are still trying to effort here? Will they try to bring back Lance Lynn? And how does Steven Matz fit into this equation?
And I think another question about this, too, is where does Michael McGreevy fit in as well? The former first-round draft pick made his Major League debut on July 31st. He was really good against the Rangers. If memory serves correct, he gave up 5 hits, 7 really good quality innings for him. And he's continued to impress with what he's done at Memphis. He's got a 2.83 ERA in his 5 starts since he returned to Memphis. So that's another one that you have to think about. Steven Matz would be somebody that if he could stay healthy, he's in my rotation. We're talking about a cost control potentially next year of a rotation that would feature Gray, Fetty, Michaelis, Palante, Mats. So as we sit in early September, you could be rolling out essentially some of the same guys that you're talking about this year.
What happened with Zach Thompson? I know that he was a part of this conversation early on, and his velo was down. Dan, you were on that from the very beginning. That was something that you noticed in spring training, and it seems like weight loss had a lot to do with it. But do you think that Zach Thompson is somebody who gets back into this conversation?
I think any former first-round pick, you still give him a look, and you look at hopefully is this year being a one-off for him and saying that he goes out during the offseason, improves upon some of the things that gave him issues this year. I think you have to do that. I mean, you just don't give up on first-round picks. But, yeah, all those things that you mentioned seem to be things that wound up being issues with him this year and just didn't have a good year. It's amazing. You go back to the beginning of the season, he was a guy that was starting against the Dodgers. This first road trip of the season for the Cardinals, and now only 23 games left, and we don't even talk about him. He's not even in the conversation. So you don't give up on first-round picks, but something's got to change with him for sure.
I think Quinn Matthews, I know that it's been very quick, so I'm not trying to rush his timeline here, but I think he's a very interesting point of conversation for next season. I wouldn't be surprised to see him to be a part of the starting rotation. I think for now, though, I would like to see McGreevy. I would like to see Gordon Graceffo one more time before the season ends.
Yeah, I don't know where they fit in. I mean, if you're still in the race, you have to have an honest conversation with yourself and say, are you, as you sit here on September 4th, you're 5.5 games out, are you completely out of it? And the answer is no. So am I going to afford some of these starts to younger pitchers because I want to get, I'd love to get a look at them. Don't get me wrong. That's one side of it. But the other side of it is I've also, owe it to my players and to an extent my fan base to try to make it. And so I don't think you can just completely throw in the towel. Now, if they were completely eliminated, absolutely, but they're not. And I think that's why you can't do that just yet.
And with Lance Lynn, I know that they're reevaluating him after his last rehab outing, which was not great. We went over those numbers yesterday. But do you see Lance Lynn say that they do bring him back this season, depending on how this next rehab outing goes for him? Do you put him in the bullpen? Would he be willing to go into the bullpen, or how does he even fit into that equation?
I guess only Ali knows.
Yeah.
I think that he's conditioned as a starter. They signed him as a starter, and you'd be asking a veteran to swallow a little pride, I think, by doing that. Now, he's the kind of guy that probably would do it, but would I anticipate them doing that with him? Probably not.
Yeah. From the 314, why would you run the same guys out there? Seems like a wasting another season. And I keep seeing this question over and over again because when we were discussing this, too, about Paul Goldschmidt, the question comes up of, okay, well, what changes next year? If we didn't like what happened this year, what changes next year? And I think that goes to a lot of the different situations, whether you're looking at the starting rotation, whether you're looking at the positional players. So how do you change things for next season?
Well, to me, there's a lot of questions going forward, that the team has to answer. And it's not just, and I know we're talking about the rotation here, but number one on my list would be Goldy, which we've talked about a lot already here this morning. That's one thing to look at. Is there a platoon in the future there? Talking about Luke and Baker, where does he fit in the plans potentially with Burleson if Goldy doesn't come back? Talked about Michael Siani and Victor Scott. What do you do with those two guys and how that would play out for them? Nolan Gorman, that's a big, big question. Where is he in the plans moving forward? You got to hope that he gets back on track. Andre Palante, have you bought in enough for him to say that he's in the rotation next year? For me, I'm in because he's been your best starter probably in the second half. Michael McGreevy, where does he fit in? Gordon Graceffo, where does he fit in? How far is Tink Hens? How far is Quinn Matthews? These are all things that they need to answer somewhat, and I don't think you're going to get those answers in the final 3 weeks of the regular season. But those are, if we're talking about it here, they're certainly talking about it behind the scenes.
314 text in and says, Dan, the fan base believes they're out of it. And even if we make the playoffs, we don't feel like we're going to be doing anything to set yourself up for 2025. So you know who's going to depend on. So you need to know who you're going to depend on and not do this, well, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. We need to figure this out. They've been out of it since June, and now they're out of it again.
Well, that's the realistic point of view.
So I guess my thought process is, do we really think, I guess we have to always assume that athletes who get to this level always are willing that the slightest chance that they could win, they want to take it, which is, do the players care about the difference between a roster that can get to the wild card and a roster that can, quote unquote, win the World Series the way that fans look at it? And I think that's probably a discrepancy between fans and players that it's hard to realize. But I mean, they're athletes because of that mindset. They got here because of that mindset. So if you tell them, we think we can get to the wild card, the athlete's brain probably thinks, well, that means we can win the wild card because all we need to do is just get there and we can win it. Yeah. And then you go from there, and it's like, well, then if you're not like the greatest competitive athlete, your mindset goes to, well, I want some bonus money and stuff like that. And so everywhere the athletes want to push for it, and that's where there's some discrepancy, I think.
I think it's a balancing act, too, though. And I know fans probably don't want to hear this, but you got 23 games left. Are you really going to learn all that much about these young guys if they make a start or two? Probably not. Are you giving them some experience that could be helpful down the line? Probably. It doesn't hurt. But still, I think if you're Nolan Arenado and you're showing up at the ballpark and you're Paul Goldschmidt, you're realistic and you understand that the organization needs to find out about some of these young guys, but you're also saying we want to win. We still want to win. And and the texter's point is valid. I mean, are you realistically probably out of it? Yeah, but you're still. I think you owe it to some of the guys that have gone, from the start of the season to play this thing out to see what happens.
I think there's also a thing with the fans.
And you may not want to hear that, but that's just probably the mindset.
No, but I think there's also a hindsight issue with the fans where they say, well, listen, if you just would have pulled Goldy and put in a young player for those 300 at bats, the Cardinals might have 5 or 6 more wins, and this could be a completely different conversation because someone could have been hitting where he wasn't. And I think there's just a spillover issue of them getting sick and tired of seeing players who have contracts getting playing time that matches their contract but does not match their current season stats. This goes all the way back to Matt Carpenter a few years ago. And I think that's where we're seeing some of the residual annoyance here. But again, that thought process is very hindsight 2020. In the moment of May 28th, were you really feeling that much more confident with the Cardinals lineup with Alec Burleson starting over Paul Goldschmidt? No, you weren't. And so looking back at it now and expecting the Cardinals to make that change is unrealistic.
And you were hoping, from their perspective and Goldy's, is that Goldy would be doing what he's doing now 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. That they felt, okay, it's there. We got to ride it out. We got to try to make sure we get the most out of it and see if it is going to happen. And it just didn't.
And you've been around these players, obviously, a lot longer than I have. How do you go and tell a player, hey, even though you're not actually eliminated, we're just going to go ahead and turn the page to next year?
Yeah, I don't think it's an easy conversation.
Yeah.
I don't. And that's why, and I'm glad you brought it up, Brooke, and that's what I was trying to say, is that I think you owe it to the guys that have posted every day to say, you've gotten us this far. It's not where we want to be, but we're at least going to try to play this thing out. And if you're, in 10 days from now, you're 8 games out in the wild card, then then it's over. Yeah. And they know, too, and they understand that the organization has to do what's best for the organization. The team needs to do what's best for the organization, which means maybe getting some spot starts to a Luken Baker or making sure he starts against lefties, finding out a little bit more about Victor Scott. Maybe one of the young guys we're talking about comes up and makes a spot start. Those things will happen, but you have to let it play out. It's probably just a little bit too early to do that.
That's Dan Rocchio, and I'm Brooke. Coming up next, we have Rocc and Roll here on 101 ESPN.
I want to rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
While Randy Carricker has the week off, you can see him next Monday, September 9th, from 4 to 6 p.m. over at the Fenton Bar and Grill. You know that's one of his favorite spots in town. Come see the best servers and bartenders like Kelly, that fiery redhead. You can also enjoy their outdoor deck, cold drinks, and chow down on the best original trash wings in St. Louis. Plus, get signed up for some 101 ESPN giveaways. That's Randy Carricker at Fenton Bar and Grill this coming Monday. Learn more at 101ESPN.com.
And 101 ESPN has your shot to score a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday's Budweiser Bash Cardinals and Reds. It's the final Bud Bash game of the season. Features a limited edition Chris Carpenter bobblehead giveaway. To win those tickets, free Budweiser Bash tickets now. Text in 314-399-9646. It'll be texter number 29 in honor of our buddy Chris Carpenter and his number 29. Thanks to Budweiser for hooking us up with Budweiser Bash tickets to giveaways all season long. Again, the number 314-399-9646 for the Chris Carpenter bobblehead Bud Bash game of the season.
Do you need a trivia question?
I just did 29.
All right, there it is.
Is that all right?
Just text her 29?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if we should
do a trivia question.
Yeah, let's do one. You got one?
Yeah, I got it. It's actually, it comes from our trivia question yesterday, because yesterday we were throwing around a little Chris Carpenter trivia, and the question was, who did Chris Carpenter lose to in the 2009 Cy Young Award run there in the National League? And in that conversation, we also got on the discussion of who did Chris Carpenter beat when he actually won the Cy Young in 2005. We disagreed on who it was on our guess, and so I'm just going to throw it out there. Who did Chris Carpenter beat for the 2005 Cy Young? Who finished second for the 2005 NL Cy Young Award?
Is it a Hall of Famer I was thinking of?
You were thinking of a Hall of Famer. I was thinking of a non-Hall of Famer. I will not tell anybody who is correct in that guess.
Okay.
I thought you were going to let it slip away there for a minute.
I almost did.
Almost happened.
I'm not going to do it.
Not this time.
Nope. Budweiser Bash tickets available with the right answer.
There we go. All right. What do we have for Rock and Roll Rock?
I saw one of my favorite things I've ever seen, which is, I don't know if MLB Network's obviously amazing. Hopefully we have Greg Amsinger on tomorrow when he doesn't hate me. He gives us obviously great stuff every week, but also one of the best things about it is the former players they get on to talk about things. And Mark DeRosa and Albert Pujols have been, obviously, it's hard not to love those guys, obviously having Cardinals connections. It's pretty cool. But they do this great thing where Pujols and DeRosa just get out there onto this like mini field they have, and with a bat in their hand, and they're running through their tee routines and things like that. And at one point, Albert starts talking about how much he uses video, and D-Row looks at him and just goes, "Now, were you a big video guy? I don't remember you watching a lot of video." Pujols turns to Mark DeRosa and just goes, "That's because I showed up at 1 and you showed up at 3:30.
I love it.
So I love Albert Pujols so much, and damn, to come after a guy on national television with a cut like that, DeRosa did not see that one coming, and he got him good.
You know, when he was in his final year, I saw him use video more than I'd ever remembered. He was going to the iPad. Now, again, the iPads weren't readily available back in the early 2000s and mid-2000s, and video was back in the video room, so probably why I didn't see him do it as much. But you talk about being a smart player and having an understanding of what the pitcher was trying to do to get him out. There's nobody else like him. And the other thing that he did that I never saw other players do as well as he did, even though they tried, was just watch the game and watch how a pitcher was trying to get other guys out, and would pick up on little nuances and giveaways from the pitcher that he'd pick up on it, man, and wind up all the way to 703 home runs. It's just such a smart player, such a smart guy, and it's amazing the career he had.
And I was able to watch him, too, in that final season, and I didn't know what to expect going in because I heard about his preparation for games. It's seeing him using the iPad. I mean, great elite players like Albert Pujols, obviously first ballot Hall of Famer. they always adapt and they change with the game. And so utilizing the iPad, he worked a lot with the young players too. You would see him in the dugout. He would work with them on that. But what did you see even prior to the iPad of how much work he was doing behind the scenes?
He's the hardest worker. I mean, there's a reason he was the best player. He worked his tail off. There was a great shot that we had a few years ago. David Eckstein at the old ballpark hit a grand slam, a walk-off grand slam, and John Rodriguez was in the dugout, and Albert grabbed his bat and threw it away and said, "You're not going to need it." He said, "You're not going to need it. Eckstein's going to get a hit right here," and he hits a grand slam because
That's
he
nuts.
he just knew, and they had talked about the situation. He knew he was going to hit it, so he grabs J-Rod's bat, throws it down, says, "You're not going to need it. He's going to win it for us," and he did.
And one of the longer clips they posted yesterday was them, again, working at the tee, and hearing Albert talk about his tee routine was absolutely incredible. And my favorite part was just the last question. D-Row asked him, just, what are you throwing at the ball? Like, is it your hands? Is it the knob of the bat?
Right.
Like and Pujols always talk about how Tony Gwynn, was knob of the bat because the bat will always follow it. And just that kind of insight, and hearing a guy, listen to him talk about why he likes going on the tee and the little jab they're throwing at coaches. He goes, coaches are throwing the ball all around. So just get the ball on the tee and work your way from there. I love hearing that kind of stuff. I love what MLB Network does, and getting the former athletes out there. It's always been the best part of that stuff.
Tee work was a big part of his preparation. Soft toss.
Man. Breaking it down was incredible.
Soft toss is something that he always did. Obviously studied video, and then I remember talking to Hal McRae. We were on the plane one time, and I said, "Who does Albert Pujols remind you of?" And his answer shocked me, and he said, "Pete Rose."
Whoa.
I said, "Pete Rose?" I said, "What are you talking about? Albert's this big, menacing dude.
Yeah.
Pete Rose, not, obviously great player, great hitter, all-time hits king, all-time leaders in hits and the hit king." And he said the thing that makes them the same, he said, they never give an at-bat away. It doesn't matter if the game is 10-1, they're winning, down 10-1. You will never see Albert Pujols give an at-bat away. And you hear players talk about that a lot now when they retired. They say, what would you have done differently? And they say, "I wish I wouldn't have given away X amount of at-bats a year, because those X amount added to this, which then added up to 300 to 400 bats in my career. And I wish I would not have given those at-bats away." And that's the one thing that Albert never did. He never gave an at-bat away, which was just amazing.
No. How many coaches do you think across the country today, after seeing that video of Albert Pujols hitting off the tee talking about that, are showing that to parents and to young players, saying, "See, if it worked for Albert Pujols, it can work for you too"?
Yeah, I'm thinking like the high school kids should look at that. I think that if you're a little leaguer and you do soft toss or tee work and you wonder, why am I doing this stuff? Yeah, go watch that, man. That's the best in the game talking about it.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Rocchio, for Rocc and Roll.
Pleasure.
And wonderful job today.
Pleasure.
Dan.
Pleasure.
Wonderful and fantastic
You
as
too.
always.
Always.
Adorbs.
Adorable. It was absolutely adorable. We made it.
And thank you all for listening. The Bloom Party is coming up next. But for now, happy Hump Day, everyone.